But we got one more minute.
It's not the street.
All right, if you can all stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, very good. Welcome, everyone. Kathy, you want to do a roll call for us?
Present.
Present.
Galogan.
Here.
Vandermeer.
Here.
Dustin.
Here.
Bartleson. Here. And Peretta. Here. We have four.
All right, Pastor Lewald from the police chaplain here in the city. He's coming to ask to say a prayer tonight.
I'd like us to take a moment of silence and to remember the Las Vegas victims and families of the shooting this week. Gracious Creator, we honor your name and request your presence and desire your will to be done in this city and in our lives. Merciful God, we request your comfort for the families of the lost loved ones in Las Vegas, for your healing hand upon the physically and emotionally wounded, wisdom for the doctors and nurses, peace and rest to be with everyone who was present during this tragedy. Your grace and strength upon the first responders, the city leaders, and the people of that city. We look to you to be a fortress of protection for our city, schools, homes, businesses from all acts of violence. We look to you, sovereign God, to bless our city, our mayor, and the members of this council, the city staff, our city's first responders with wisdom and knowledge for our city. May the riches of your blessing rest upon their lives and their families. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lou. A couple things tonight. One is our Boy Scouts here tonight, and I want to thank you. We had an opportunity to talk with them a little bit about civics and what it means to be on the council and things at the mayor level and such, so it was very good. I'm glad you guys came out and we talked. I know you guys aren't going to stay the whole meeting, so we won't be offended when you get up and leave. It's okay. And then also John Connor here from the 85th District. He asked if he could introduce himself. So John, come on up and tell us about what you do.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. My name is John Connor. I was recently appointed at the end of June to fill out the term of Emily McCasey, who was previously the 85th District State Representative. I kind of came into the middle of things, so the dust has finally settled, and just wanted to come in and introduce myself. I had a great meeting with Mayor Straight. I want to thank you, Mayor, for meeting with me to discuss projects that are going on in the city that might have legislative implications, or at least where I may be able to to be of some assistance. And so I was able to do that. And basically, I know you have a lot of business tonight, so I want to be brief, but this week on Friday, the 6th, I have my senior celebration going on over at the Romeoville Athletic Center from 9 to noon. So if you know any seniors, it is going to be, they're going to be about 54 different agencies that are going to be there, agencies and companies. So I just wanted to make that known as well. So I look forward to working with all of you on anything that has any legislative implications or for which you might need some assistance down in Springfield. I'm happy to help. My office is the same. Nothing's basically changed since Emily left, so I'm very available, and I like to pride myself on accessibility. So please, if you have anything that you would like to speak to me about, call me and let me know. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, John, and thanks for coming out the other day and just asking about what the needs are here, so we appreciate it. I was going to give you guys a State Street construction update. We had a kickoff meeting today with IDOT, V3, Burke was there, and deconstruction was there. So I made sure that we opened the meeting, and I talked about the importance of this project and being done well and everybody bringing their A game, getting it done in a time frame that is not going to overwhelm us. The end date is scheduled to be the end of November next year. That's what we're shooting for. You know, anything can happen, of course, but it was, you know, very clear that this is a goal that we need to shoot for. And making sure that we're cooperating, because there's going to be a number of different engineering firms and a lot of different entities, 2 different governing bodies. So it's a complicated project, but I felt good after talking with Dee and getting assurances from their president that this is going to be a priority job, important to them. And, you know, I think, Brent, they mentioned 10-hour days, even 6 days a week, so they want to make sure that they're focused on it. Thank you to Ben and Brent. You guys were on the ball, and I know you guys were, I appreciate what you guys are doing there. And in fact, IDOT even opened up an office here down the street to oversee it. So they'll be local and being able to keep their eyes on the project. So it's a big deal. They will start officially, I think, was it?
First week of March.
First week of March, it looks like. There'll be some preliminary things that we're still trying to kick around, but construction activities start, actually, the 19th of February is what they actually have written down. Construction activities pre-stage. Yeah. So anyways, they'll start it in the first couple months there. You can take a look at this, Jim, if you want. This is the schedule. So anyways, that's an update for that. What do you guys got? Anybody? Catherine?
So I just wanted to announce that our police station is entering a contest. It is to win a possible grant for up to $5,000 for our canine unit with Sitco, our dog. The contest starts October 11th. It ends November 7th, 2017, so you got a little less than a month to enter it. You can win $5,000, $4,000, $3,000, $2,000, $1,000, and this has to go with the K9 unit. What's neat about this contest is all the cities in the United States can enter it that have police stations that have K9 units. So we will be in competition with a lot of different cities, including Lockport, New York, and Lockport, Louisiana. So I mean, we did great pride with our radio station trying to be the top city recently. And so if everyone can click on the link, it'll be attached to the City of Lockport's police station website. You can enter each day. Just try and remember to click on Lockport, Illinois. Thank you.
Thanks,
Chief, do you want to say anything else on it, or nope? Okay. Oh, also they have their pink badges that we've been promoting. So our police do have it, and so you want to show them off. They're pretty neat. So that's for breast cancer donations for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
I also
Yep,
have-
Joanne?
I'd like to introduce one of our committee member, Noelle Skolnick. She's going to be talking about the Beautification Recognition Award committee that we're starting, and she's going to be heading the committee, so she's got little things to tell us here.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for letting me be able to come up here and speak. Mayor, thank you so very much for this opportunity. I'm a little bit short, so I'm going to try and lower this. There you go. The newly organized Beautification Committee of Lockport is excited to introduce a seasonal property contest for all residents of Lockport. We're going to be offering it for fall, winter, spring, and summer. Beginning this fall, starting now until November 23rd, residents will have a chance to receive special recognition just by showcasing their landscape and their outside decor. Categories for the fall are going to include harvest, family-friendly Halloween decorations, as well as mature Halloween decorations. Our committee is excited to organize a special way to thank our residents. We will begin to thank the winners at city meetings until hopefully our goal is to plan a beautification reception to thank all of those residents that have participated. We are also planning on getting our businesses involved too, so that is one of our other goals. Right now, residents will win a gift certificate to a local business, as well as getting a special yard sign to go out in front of their yard. And we have this wonderful flyer that we are in the midst of doing some finalization to. We will be putting it on the 355 marquee. They will also be going with all of the water bills, contacting all of the school districts as well to get these to all of the schools, and multiple other ways to advertise. And we're opening up a Facebook page as well.
Very good. Well, I'm super excited. Thank you, guys. And I love when people take things and run with it. So, Noelle, I really appreciate it, and Joanne,
She's the
appreciate it.
Energizer bunny, so
Yes,
I gotta
yes,
tell you.
I know.
And we also have another committee member, Cece, that is
Oh, sure.
a part of the committee. How
Cece
many
standing
do
in
we
the
have
back.
so far?
Hiding.
We have 9 committee members, so we're still looking for more.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to join, please contact me.
Well, thank you so much. And Joanne, make sure that we put it on our city Facebook and social media too. so.
We're working on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Well, that's fun. All right. What else we got? Anybody else? Dun, 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 dun. We all good? Okay, thank you there, liaisons.
Hold on, Mayor. I'll take AutoCAD or whatever, the development code update.
So we've been talking to J.J. Bennis about getting that back in front of you. As you know, we presented that very large development code update a month ago, a couple weeks. And I think the primary goal is to come back and get that all approved at one time. There was some debate about breaking it into sections, but it's, you know, it's fairly comprehensive, but I think it's a large document. So we were originally targeting trying to bring it back before the end of the year. If we want to set a date of the first meeting in December, we can you know, work on any timeline that you feel. We were also, I guess, waiting for any individual responses too, that we've presented it. You know, there was a few questions at the meeting. We can, you know, bring it back to another committee of the whole was the plan before we try to approve anything. But right now, I guess the first week in December.
We did send over all of our details, so all of the AutoCAD details have been sent over to J.J. Bennis, so we are working with them on that. There's a few more we want to add, some new, you know, some more information, more details, but
Something we can get done, the AutoCAD done and back in everyone's hands to review by November? Instead of waiting for December, or what's their schedule?
yeah, we will be going behind the scenes. I guess Ben and I spoke, and I think if we could shoot for that first one of December to bring back to council, that would be ideal for me.
All right. Thank you much. Ben, is this you, CA1?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, in your packet is, for your information only, it's a project that the utilities, NICOR and ComEd are partnering on IDNR property in the town. The city really isn't involved other than issuing a permit, and Brent has been working with them. But basically, they're going to be removing an old manufactured gas plant, which was there in operations in 1904 to 1907. There's maps in your packet. The utility companies have created a website that's available. It's called lockportsite.info, which will give you a lot more information. But we wanted to get this out in front of everyone because they do plan to close a portion of the trail down there. There will be a detour down Canal Road. We did ask them to wait until after the haunted house operations were over, so they won't be embarking until November. Typically, it's going to be removal of some trees, removal of contaminated soils, they'll bring back in clean soils, and then they'll replant trees. And this will be occurring on a very confined, small acreage just south of the, I forget the name of the rental storage building there, on the tracks of Division Street. So they will actually access those grounds through that property. It will be fenced off. There'll be a truck washing station. They'll have a flagger there. The trucks come out of there, make a right, and then make a right on State Street, and they go down to a landfill in Will County. So we couldn't ask for a better, lower amount of impact to the community for them coming out of town. But we wanted you to be aware of it. If you ever got any messages, we'll put it on our website, and certainly the utilities have their own website for additional information. Detour signs will be going up, and I think they've got a pretty good game plan. It should be over within 3 months, so their plan is to be done before the end of the year.
Okay. You said it closed in 1907?
There was a manufacturing gas plant there that was in operation between, they think, 1904 and 1907.
All right.
So,
Well, I guess when it comes to cleanup, better late than never. Yeah. Okay.
Back then, utilities weren't a commodity that was readily available, and so there were small businesses up and down the canal trying to make money to produce gas for stoves and power plants, and so they've got to clean it up. So,
All right. Sounds good.
thank you.
All right, CA2.
Yes, this next item on your packet, CA2, is an ordinances, there'll be 3 ordinances approving an amendment to the Des Plaines River Enterprise Zone for the Joliet Rock Run crossings and for the Joliet Ecolab expansion. These are requests from our partners in the Enterprise Zone. We entered into an Enterprise Zone with Joliet, Rockdale, Romaville, Lockport, and Will County back in 1983. We've updated these recently and extended our time periods. If anyone isn't aware, an enterprise zone functions much like a TIF. It's an incentive that's available to developers to be able to save sales tax on certain manufacturing equipment and things like that. And Lockport certainly has a section of these zones in our areas as well. So Joliet has requested to amend theirs and add a few areas. In this process, we realized that part of the Lockport zones that were originally established have now been built residential, and so we should probably amend ours as well. That would be a separate process. But as long as we don't go over a certain cap, which there's still room available, we can do that. So I think Sonny and I are going to work on that with Mayor and Jim and bring something back to the council. But at this time, Joliet's asking to change theirs a little bit. The 5 partners have met. We all agreed that we'd bring this to our councils for consensus. And the state statute's very specific. There's a lot of information in your packet that might seem repetitive, but the state was very specific on what they were looking for to change these ordinances. So we'll be changing our ordinance, and then we'll be accepting the ordinance changes for the 2 petitions for Joliet. So I welcome any questions you may have, but this is a process that the communities have kind of agreed upon, and we'll probably be trying to follow the same process in the near future for our own areas.
Okay. Any questions, concerns?
Basically,
So it's something you need to be on a consent agenda?
We
You
can,
need an
that's fine.
approval?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Mayor, I think this one's easy. Just a quick question that
Sure.
Darren may know, or you has anybody ever used it in Lockport?
I'm not aware of any. When I came on board in 2013, I wasn't aware of any, and I know we haven't processed any since I've been here, so.
John Gruling's here. He might
John.
be able to answer that question.
I don't know if John.
You have this enterprise zone. Has
Yeah.
anybody
In Lockport used it yet?
Used it in
Yeah.
Lockport? Has anybody? do you
Well,
know?
that's since 1983, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
probably, yeah.
Not in the last,
Not a lot.
probably 5 or 10 years.
Typically, it's, you utilize the enterprise zone or a TIF, and so many times the TIF is chosen, just like for our Chevron property. Depending on what the manufacturing use may be, it may be better to do one way or the other, but we haven't had a lot of use in our TIF either, so they're out there.
All right, so we'll put it on
Put it on
consent.
consent. Thank you.
All right, Pam, what do you got? PZ1.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. John Atkinson is seeking approval of a concept plan for a 4.4 acre parcel, which is located at the northeast corner of Victoria Crossing and Cedar Road. He is proposing a 31-unit townhome development. The subject property was part of an overall 202-acre PUD that had zoning that consisted of R1, R2, and C2. The subject property that's being discussed this evening is actually zoned C2 and was originally intended for the Lockport Memory Care, which was an assisted living adult daycare facility. The project was ultimately withdrawn and it was never constructed. The development before us this evening would have a density of approximately 7 dwelling units per acre. There's an existing townhome development to the east that was developed as part of the overall residential component, and that has a density of 8.9 dwelling units per acre. A site plan or concept plan is included in your packet and shows the orientation of the buildings, as well as that they will all have 2-car garages. In order to proceed with this development, the applicant is seeking concept plan approval because it does not comply with the current zoning, nor does it comply with the comprehensive plan designation of commercial land use. In those instances, staff strongly recommends then that applicants go through the process to see what the feasibility of their proposal might be. The type of zoning future zoning that would be required here would be R2, and that would match the existing townhome development to the east. And then with respect to Cedar Road is under the county jurisdiction. And even with the initial memory care project, they were not given an opportunity to have access onto Cedar Road. The access would come from Victoria Crossing. So the feasibility of a true commercial development is probably very limited because they would rely on that type of access. You also don't want to mix a true commercial development with residential access off of Victoria Crossing. And because of the needs and demands of a commercial development, it just really doesn't make sense in this location anymore. So the applicant came before the Plan Commission on September 12th. The commission was generally in favor of the project. They had a couple questions about the townhome ownership, which would be generally small fee simple lots and then common ownership lots, and then also about the roadway ownership. When this was initially presented to staff, the applicant had indicated that it would be a private road development, similar to what was approved for Sagebrook, which has 92 townhomes constructed on a private road. However, at the public hearing, the applicant indicated that he thought he would want the road to be a public road. However, if this were to become a public road, it would substantially alter the design of his development. So perhaps this evening when he comes forward, we can get better clarification on that. But overall, again, the Plan Commission was generally in favor of the concept plan and the proposed development and the future residential zoning. There were no objectors present. This being a concept plan did require courtesy notice to adjacent property owners. By a vote of 7-0, the Plan and Zoning Commission did recommend approval, subject to 6 conditions. And the 6 conditions are pretty standard conditions that get associated with concept plans, basically advising that this is a general review, more detailed review upon a preliminary development. This would most likely end up being a special use for a planned residential development because of the private road and some other issues that may have to be addressed. We'd also have to amend the annexation agreement because the existing annexation agreement calls out for the original proposal under the C2. And there are some comments that had been provided by our development engineering consultant. Most of those are really applicable to the time and place when the applicant, if he moves forward, submits a preliminary plan. The applicant is present this evening and I believe would like to give a brief presentation. And staff would be seeking direction to place this on this October 18th City Council for final consideration.
Sure, right on. Come on up.
Thank you. All righty, so.
There you go.
That's going to get us here. Good.
Click slideshow.
Oops. I'm sorry.
Click slideshow.
Where is that, Pam?
Up at the top.
If you
Up at the top here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
hit close on the other one, then, and then,
Oh, close that. Okay.
there you go.
Now click time. There you go. Oop. There you go.
All right.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Atkinson, the manager of Lockport Cedar LLC, the applicant. I'm here with Ron Weslitz of the Linden Group, who helped with our plan. He's got a larger 24 by 36 board, if anyone would like to see that, or if we have questions after the presentation. I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to present our community, where we're looking to transform what we believe is an overlooked and tired property into a vibrant neighborhood, creating a win four ways for the residents of our new community, our neighbors, the city of Lockport, and our group. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and get into the PowerPoint. Who is John Atkinson and Lockport Cedar? That's me, as I said. I'm a real estate lifer for the last 18 years. Been in the development business with a home builder and developer, as well as having executive and ownership positions with a developer, contractor, and investor. Over that time period, we've done dozens of residential communities, business parks, and shopping centers, covering thousands of acres among the uses you see there. We've also won the coveted Key Award from the Home Builders Association, and then prior to that, spent 13 years in the banking industry, specializing in real estate finance. Turning, you can see a sampling of our prior developments, and then we've got some photos of some of our product, a residence in Palos Park, another residence in Palos Park, office developments, as well as retail and industrial. And then, as Pam pointed out, we're at 167th on the east side of Cedar, about 3 blocks north of 167th Street. Next, we see graphically that from the aerial, we see Victoria Crossings to our east, to our west, and to our south, along with a neighboring residence directly to our north. Here's just a shot of our concept plan. Again, we'll probably get into a little further detail in that after I conclude. And then looking to the aerial plan, we see that we believe the neighborhood fits nicely within the parcel with Victoria Crossing, their townhomes, again, visible in the aerial to our east. And then the middle slide, the middle image there shows the existence of utilities either on-site or immediately adjacent. And then we see the contours in the last image showing the drainage generally to the south. Okay. We talked about existing utilities, stormwater drainage, and then one thing that we did take into account as well, that the potential expansion of Cedar Road, that we've got 108 feet from the center line of Cedar to our townhomes, which then shows that we could accommodate that expansion. Looking at the site more specifically, we see the top two photos with the mature trees and the terraces come into view, and then in the bottom left we see those landscape terraces, which today are overgrown and actually have some structural deficiencies and drainage repairs, not to mention that there was an accident that needs to get addressed as well. Then we look next north along Cedar Road and then to the east, Victoria Crossing. What do we have to offer within our townhomes? We think we've got an effective layout to maximize the inherent attributes of the property and its site, again with those retaining walls, the north building's orientation overlooking the landscape terraces, and the mature landscaping to our north. We'd improve the streetscape along Cedar, as well as landscaping with our neighbors at Victoria Crossing. We'd have paver treatment with plantings within the cul-de-sac, as well as good spacing between our buildings, and provide pedestrian circulation within the community and to the nearby parks. Offerings would be 4 and 3 unit buildings with sizes between about 1,500 and under 2,200 feet with appealing elevations from all directions as we get into architecture. Then we're excited, again, with those terraces. The top 2 photos show what we believe can be done with some effective landscaping and removal of the overgrown trees and weeds, et cetera, and repairs to the retaining walls. We believe that there are aspects that should appeal to our neighbors as well as the city in terms of enhancing to the values home values at Victoria Crossings with larger units, available basements, and 2-car garages, and not having an intensive use on our neighbors, such as 24-hour shopping, parking lot glare, staring at a concrete block, rear wall, and then far less traffic and pavement. And then, as Pam mentioned, the limited access that you would not get onto Cedar Road, further inhibiting commercial development. In terms of density, as Pam pointed out, we're below the annexation agreement and ordinance, as well as below the density at Victoria Crossing, and offering townhome ownership with restrictive covenants. Nearby, we've got land uses and public amenities that we think are very conducive and to residential use and attractive to home buyers, such as the elementary schools, the churches and fire station nearby, as well as the attractive Victoria Pond to our south, and then the very scenic Victoria Lake Park just a block to the east, and the beautiful Messenger Woods Nature Preserve. And I had to show you my favorite slide here that hopefully we've got our residents taking advantage of when we've got our community up. We wanted to make sure that the market was in favor of our proposal, so we did some market research, and we're happy to report that our findings were favorable in that supply is down and prices are up. And then our townhome offerings will address a real and current need, as the only new construction townhome community within the city is at Sagebrook, which is selling quite well and expected to be sold out by our opening. And there is a need for properly priced housing to meet the growth that we've seen within the city, both on a commercial and industrial basis. And then graphically, we can see that the months of supply is down while pricing is up. Okay. As Pam pointed out, requesting a zoning change to R2, which we believe is appropriate, from community commercial to single-family residential. I refer to the property as a hole in the donut in that we're surrounded by existing or planned residential uses. And then as well, the market has spoken. Over the last 18 years, the property has remained vacant with no commercial use since the annexation. And then overlaying, you can see from this aerial, you see the yellow that's also in the comprehensive plan surrounding our terraces property. That's the little red box there. Further on the C2 zoning, within the ordinance, it identified again as commercial, community commercial, that provides for a broad range of general shopping and compatible businesses, which is not evident here at the parcel, as well as the parcel conflicts with the ordinance's definition of a roadway requirement, where there should be at the intersection of or along major arterial and collector streets, where Victoria Crossing, you just don't have those traffic counts needed for commercial. In some reasons to approve the concept plan and zoning change, again, our hole in the donut and that we're compatible to our adjacent uses, both existing and proposed. We've got offerings within the plan and our product that will appeal to our neighbors and the city. And we're less dense. We've got locational attributes, as we pointed out, conducive to residential use, and favorable market dynamics, as well as the conflicts that we mentioned with the zoning. And then one thing that I may have had on a slide, but I'm a little nervous and I may have skipped over, is we're going to be able to put on the city's tax rolls what was currently vacant, to change that to approved residential. So in sum, we think that that will benefit the four-way win that I opened with. So with that said, I'm open for questions. Oh, you know, if I could, I did have one correction or clarification. Pam pointed out or mentioned that the development was proposed or presented as a private road. I think there was just a little misunderstanding that the project has been built to public specifications. And in my response, I clearly stated within the engineering review with my letter, with my resubmittal package after getting the comments, response/correction. While there was some discussion at our first meeting with staff, Mayor Straight and others, the road is designed as a public road. So it's a little clarification I think I wanted to make, and we're ready for questions.
Well, thanks for the thorough presentation. I appreciate it. Questions, concerns from council?
So I have a question, and I had asked Ben this question. Is it possible to get it's like a chain link fence, like Pueblo, not chain link, a thick fence, like a chain fence? Pueblo Point has this for an emergency exit off of Cedar. I know you do not allow another entrance out of Cedar, but just in case you can't get out of the Victoria Crossings location. And the best example, if you go to this, can you see that one, that slide that you had posted, this one?
Sure, yeah.
So I drew a circle there. It's kind of where the island is. If you can, I don't know if you can pull that up.
Yeah,
oh, there you go. So I was just wondering if it would be possible where that big circle is, where the turnaround is, right there. If there could just be, it's not used, but it would be used if there was an emergency.
Oh, you can't.
Is that not allowed?
Well, I'll tell you, given the grade change, it can't happen.
Oh, there's no way to do it there?
No, the retaining wall itself is 10 feet tall there.
So there's a wall right there then? Okay. And so
it's at
there's
its
nothing
peak,
that way?
It's at its peak at about 10, I think 10 feet and a half an inch or plus or minus, where you pointed out.
Okay, so I didn't know that's where the retaining wall was.
Yeah.
So there's no way to get a second entrance? No.
We had this discussion back when the memory care is, that very question was asked, and Will County is not going to allow a cut of any kind on Cedar Road, so it becomes a moot point. Yeah, emergency or not, they're not going to allow another cut on Cedar Road.
So how many entry and exits will there be then?
There's the one that's coming off of the residence. It's a cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac.
It's only 31 yards.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the subdivision as a whole does have two. There's one
Okay.
south on Division and one on Cedar, but this off of Victoria Crossing Road would be like a long cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So one question I have, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, and I believe we talked about this in the past, is that there's a good chance that Cedar Road could be the part of the route for the high bridge that may get built one day, hopefully does. If this gets expanded to 4 lanes, are you anticipating that impact? Can you absorb that?
Sure, and that's what I mentioned with that, and I've got mathematically, okay, if Cedar's at 4 lanes with a center, okay, there's 120 feet of roadway that's needed, right away, okay? So 60 feet on each side of the center line, okay? So if we take 120 feet less 60, we need 60 feet remaining, and we've got 108. So I think we're fine.
Are you prepared to anticipate that with like some kind of screening? Because let's say it gets built, people move in, they're happy, Cedar Road gets widened, they're upset.
You could, as Ron's got on the drawing, all kinds of landscaping.
Okay.
Throughout there.
Okay.
Right, and the buffering would be required per our design and development guidelines, also because of the rear of the buildings facing the public street.
What was the last part, Pam?
Because it faces the public street.
Sure.
So the design guidelines require it.
Okay.
Mayor, the question I have, so in terms of rezoning this obviously commercial there, like everyone explained how it's not at an intersection, right? It's probably not the most ideal commercial space. So, and you're going from commercial to residential, which is a lot easier for the community to adapt to, right? To accept and everything. We're not going with a higher use. I'm not a fan of the density, right, that matches next door, but you would never build single-family homes in that spot, right? Get 5 or 6 there right next to Cedar Road, so that would not be prudent. So I think this is the best use here. Pam, we meet all the floor area ratios, all the landscaping, all the requirements?
We have not done that detailed of a review because it's a concept plan,
Okay.
but certainly when the preliminary development plans would come in, we would do that detailed review.
So I know people that live in Victoria Crossings, and one of the complaints that they have is like those drives that you have that are just separated by 2-foot little strip, and it usually starts out as grass and then becomes stone or something. People are parking over between neighbors, right, the 2-foot strip. So, you know, I'm interested in seeing this become the municipal streets, right, curb, gutter, sidewalk,
Sure.
and everything, getting that cleaned up and seeing how that works. I am interested in your choice of like the residential units to the north, looking at that terrace versus not looking at that terrace, like putting the cul-de-sac lands there or the park or an open space. Is that more of a feature that you guys are saying that residents would want that in their backyard?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. That's why I got the cover as I do. I'm personally a big fan and think that people will be too.
I mean, the pictures that you're showing here, you're not taking down the terrace and redoing it.
Oh, no.
Okay, so it's still a straight 10-foot high terrace.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Good question. It curves. Yeah, there's right at the
curves at the corner.
It curves at the corner. It curves kind of nicely, and actually, give me a second.
By no means does it look like the picture you have up right now.
Oh, by no means, yeah. And there's, I think, 15 feet and like 20 feet respectively within those two terraces. So there's a lot of landscaping can go in there.
Jim, is your question, are you replacing the existing retaining wall?
Right, to make it look like that curvy one.
Yeah,
I don't.
The existing one doesn't look so great anymore.
Well, all right, so again, as an architect.
But there's the curve that I was attracted to, and I think our residents
on the
will be
lower
too.
picture.
Yeah, the existing one is the lower one.
The lower.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, if it was, if it was the upper right or the upper left, I'd want that in my backyard. So
Okay, well, it will be.
Okay.
I mean, when that's landscape, that should look.
Yeah, no, again, it's, when you actually do the cul-de-sac and everything like that, I'd be interested to see how that pans out and everything with the full road improvements and stuff.
Sure.
I was just thinking that, you know, if those turn and there's a little bit more room for these people to have views, again, to Cedar is not the best view, but you get a little more air circulation, and then the other one pointing towards Victoria Crossings, having a neighbor, a backyard neighbor, versus the 10, 12, 15-foot wall. But you have to market this, so you have to sell it.
Yeah, and really, the only folks that, another little point, is that the wall does step down gradually, but really the northwestmost unit is got 10 feet to his west, to his north. They're looking, or he or she looking at the terraces. Then as the retaining wall steps down, the next unit, Ron, if you could point what I'm talking about, just south of the cul-de-sac, that unit, the retaining wall is probably only a foot or two tall at that point.
Right. Yeah, I've driven past it all the time. Okay.
Just wanted to clarify.
Anything else? Any other thoughts, questions, concerns?
I have just more, Pam said it and I read it, that this was originally intended for the Lockport Memory Care. I remember when Lockport Memory Care was here, it might have just been Darren and I, and there was a lot of discussion, and, you know, just residents were out and we're talking about it, and we talked about, you know, maybe townhomes being a possibility, and I think that that's probably okay, but did we actually rezone to C2 for Lockport Memory Care? Because my guess would be that we've been C2 for a while here, right? Yeah, but more than once we've said originally intended for, but it wasn't actually zoned just for that, because that was 3 years ago, right?
Well, typically, with who the developer was, it's pretty common practice that they provide some area, especially along a road like Cedar, for commercial. I can't confirm that it was zoned only for that particular type of use, but my guess is they had anticipated some type of C2 zoning and then just had the interest of the memory care facility in that location. Because it's a similar concept on the other side of the street, where there's a small part of commercial that's on the corner, and then it's townhomes. And so it's kind of, I think it was Montalbano, right? Didn't Montalbano do that?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's pretty typical of Montalbano and other types of builders like that, to reserve some opportunity for
Yeah, okay, so, and that
neighborhood
makes sense.
commercial.
I think saying that it was originally intended for Lockport Memory Care might be misleading, because this was zoned in, what, 1998 as a part
Yeah,
of
it
the
was
PUD,
long.
and that was probably 2014 or 15.
Prior vision, they strip center, so.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I remember, yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of discussion about this.
You wouldn't really, you'd have a business tucked in behind this retaining wall, so it wasn't ideal.
Yeah, so I think, you know, from a concept plan, I think this is probably like he said, probably the best use of this land. Obviously, as we get further along in the process, there'll be details that you guys need to comply with in code, but
Sure.
I think this is a very reasonable use of that property.
Good.
Yeah, the more space you can get there, more on-street parking, like more flexibility, because that's all I hear from Victoria Crossing. They're like, you can't park anywhere, there's no.
There's a couple of.
You've got some parking spots there, but park in front of a house, you're parking there, it's all just drives. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And yeah, by the way, just, we do have under contract the hard corner at 167th and Cedar, so that's what we envision when the rooftops come and the phone rings for commercial, to develop that
The
corner.
northwest corner?
If you're looking at the aerial there,
Corner of Cedar.
the northwest corner of Cedar and 167th.
Yeah, so not contingent to this property, but.
Not contiguous, but, right. All right.
All right, well, why don't you guys, okay, why don't we put it on as an action item then for next meeting? And that way, if anybody comes in and has anything else to say, we can talk about it then, so. All good? All right, thank you. Hey, I just figured it's prudent.
You'd like to see me next week? Or 2 weeks?
No, I'm just saying that for next meeting, we're going to put it on for an action item to vote on.
Okay, as opposed to consent agenda, okay, thank you, okay. Thank you.
Okay, you bet, thank you.
Oh, sorry, get out of there.
All right, Pam. PZ2.
Okay.
Are we talking about this one, by the way?
Yes, the broker is in attendance. He informed me that the owner had a death in the family and had to leave the country. So he's here and he will try to respond to questions as best as he can.
Okay.
But the applicant is Deepak Patel on behalf of a company called Carlisle Investments. He's seeking approval of a special use permit to allow a unique use motel within an R1 zoning district. The existing hotel has been in operation since the 1990s. The property includes a 17-unit motel, a single-family residence, parking, and it is all on a septic system. The original special use, which was granted to the Tamala family, did have a condition in there that a new special use would be required if the property were to ever be sold. The property has been up for sale for quite some time, and the applicant now is interested in purchasing the property. In addition, the special use permit did also stipulate that the current owners were to reside on the site. When this came forward, Staff did a visual inspection of the property, and we did identify at the Plan Commission, and it's included in the Plan Commission report, some areas that need to be addressed if Mr. Patel does purchase the property and proceed with the new special use. This went to the Plan and Zoning Commission as a public hearing on September 12th. The applicant was present along with the seller's broker, and they did respond to questions and comments. The commission asked why the new special use and why not commercial. And given the nature of the area, being adjacent to residential, being kind of a more rural character right now along Archer Avenue, it just seemed to make sense that it continue to be one imposed with the special use. If it were even to be rezoned to C2, it would require special use anyway, so the process would essentially be the same. The commission did express concern that we did not have in there a condition as the similar special use permit, in that should the property, if this owner buys it and should he in turn decide to sell it, that the new owner should also have to come back and get a special use permit. So that condition was added into the Plan Commission's recommendation. The conditions, as identify time frames when certain deficiencies in the property or property maintenance issues need to be addressed. At the time that it was presented, the commission did raise a concern that perhaps the 6-month time frame may start to interfere with the winter conditions and may make it a little difficult for the applicant to comply. However, they didn't change the time frame. When asked by the commission whether the applicant, did confirm agreement with the conditions, it was stated that he is in confirmation with those. By a vote of 7-0, the Plan Commission, they did find sufficient evidence that the special use for new unique use did meet the standards established. And as I stated, subject to 2 conditions. Condition 1 is prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, several items A through K must be addressed. Item 2 is that within 6 months from the date of the occupancy permit being issued, that items A through F be addressed. And again, it relates to property deficiencies and property maintenance issues. And then the 3rd condition added that the special use is granted specifically to this applicant, and that any change in ownership would require a new special use put from the city. The staff is seeking direction to place this on the October 18th agenda for final consideration. And as I stated, the broker, Charlie Burbridge, is in attendance.
All right. Any questions, concerns?
I do. So the special use that say it changes hands, and the special use, that person needs to come back and reapply, or is it just a formality of changing names and ownership?
They would need to reapply, just as this applicant. And it's, the concerns are that the property is still being zoned R1. Okay. And because of the nature of the use and the area, it's just imperative that if a new owner comes along, that we can reestablish that they'll be operating the business as a motel, not as a permanent living or motel apartment or anything. And so that's why it's just kind of like a check and balance.
Okay.
It's a control mechanism, and when properties turn over, that's also an opportunity to exact additional controls or changes in the past approvals. So one of the things that when I was reading through this and was pointed out to me is that since then we had passed a hotel tax. They had a provision that they didn't have to pay the hotel tax in the original approval. So I'd like to talk to Sonny more about, can we put that provision back on this now that the property is turning over? I'm assuming we can. I see you're nodding over there. So, we have a 5% hotel motel tax. If it's going to be operating as a hotel motel, we should be able to collect that.
Hey, can you tell us exactly what the hotel motel taxes can be used for?
No,
that's
well,
not it.
Now that we're home rule, you can use it for anything you like.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So it isn't just
It just
tourism
changed.
anymore?
It just changed last week.
So it's no longer just tourism?
Correct.
Okay.
What Darren is alluding to is that non-home rule communities in Illinois are subject to putting the hotel motel tax that they receive back into tourism or marketing efforts and that's a state statute. It's been around a long time, but once your home rule, it goes into your regular revenue funds, you can do whatever you want with it. I think it's still a good idea. We do fund the community marketing and things like that anyway, so to dedicate a fund, you know, and that's not something we typically do. We only have several, only a couple restricted funds. So at this point, it's not something we need to clarify.
All right.
I did not know that.
Any other concerns? No. Okay. It sounds good. I'm glad to see, you know, folks are interested in it and cleaning it up and taking it over and doing new things. So we're excited about that. Thank you. Our condolences to.
It was the buyer who had a death in the family. We do have one of the Tamalas who's the owner, if you had any questions.
I see, okay.
But just so you know, Mayor, in the last meeting, the Planning and Zoning, Mr. Patel, and you guys did research to this as well on his other properties, is always a community advocate. He likes beautifying these properties. He likes them to be welcoming. His vision for this property, and we have Barry Landscaping that's going to put together an architectural plan, is to plant flowers and bushes to make it more welcoming in the opening. He has a long-term plan of maybe picnic tables, volleyball, and some of the open land. He wants to make it more welcoming to families and improve the property in that respect, so it's aesthetically pleasing and more welcoming to families is his target market. He also is so interested in the community, he's asked me to refer him to a residential broker and wants to look at houses to live in Lockport as well. So he really has a good vision and wants to be part of the community.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you.
I will just add, he owns what I believe it's now 3 existing hotel motels. I did a decent amount of research on them. They're all actually, you know, a little smaller variety, but they all have very great reviews, a lot of positive feedback related to the existing properties. So, you know, probably a welcome owner to our town.
Okay, sounds good. Is this something we can do on a consent, or do we need to?
You can put it in consent. It doesn't require a supermajority vote.
I would like to get that, I think it's in the annexation agreement, changed for the hotel motel tax. I'm not sure where. I put it on an action if you don't mind, and we can sort that out a little bit. I think it's important to sort out.
Okay.
I don't know if it's in the annexation agreement or I'm looking for it now, but we'll follow up.
Is it also okay if we maybe extend that 6-month time frame because it is in fact going to cross over into the winter months, or we could leave the 6 months in and subject it to weather permitting? Would that be okay?
It's whatever's convenient.
He did feel better extending that because of the seasonality, and we do have bids on everything from the parking lot to all your requests. The one thing I wanted to ask, because we were looking at enclosing the trash container as is, and it says a wooden fence, and they were thinking about putting a chain link with white slats to match the building, and I don't know if
That's not allowed.
Okay.
That's not allowed.
That's fine.
So we'll condition it weather permitting, so that we get that flexibility.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. All right, then we'll put it on for an action item. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Pam, what else you got?
Okay. All right. The next item is the concept plan for the industrial business park being proposed by Ridge Development. They are coming before the council this evening because the proposed industrial park does not comply with the city's current comprehensive plan. And as similarly what was done with Hillwood Enterprises back in 2015, staff recommended, because the original 2015 plan expired, that Ridge Development come back before the council to see what the feasibility would be of their proposal. What they are proposing would be very similar to what we have in terms of existing business parks already in the city, such as Heritage Crossing Corporate Center, 355 Corporate Center, the Exeter Industrial Business Center, and the recently approved Prologis Industrial Business Park. The proposal includes 4 industrial warehouse buildings with a total building area of approximately 1.5 million square feet. The buildings will be oriented to the east and west with loading and trailer parking areas proposed between the buildings. The plan is very similar in terms of building design and size as the Hillwood plan from 2015. It is anticipated that if this project proceeds, it would occur in 2 phases. The access would occur via a full access from 163rd Street, which is under the city's jurisdiction, and limited access on Division Street, which is the Will County jurisdiction. The property would also benefit from the John Lane Crossing, which was a public road installed by Panattoni with the construction of 355 Corporate Center. The applicant would be required to fully improve the south side of 163rd Street with some additional improvements extending to the north side. The applicant has also expressed a willingness to assist the city with making some additional improvements in front of the Panattoni Duke property to help facilitate a consistency in the road system. They've also expressed a willingness to contribute to the cost of a future signal at 163rd Street and Gauger Road. The city did receive contributions for that same purpose from MI Homes, Exeter, and Panattoni. The applicant also shows on the site plan a possible and future city water tower site and a possible city well site. The city does not currently have plans in place, but should we proceed with either of those, if this project were to move forward and be approved, sites would be available. The concept plan does not require a public hearing. Courtesy notice was sent out. Staff did receive comments from the 2 neighbors in advance of the first Plan and Zoning Commission meeting, which occurred on June 13th. It was subsequently tabled to July 11th because of concerns raised by residents, such as what access and its impact on the properties to the north, and also to any impact of a new city well on existing private wells. It was continued to July 11th, and the commission also asked that someone from Strand, which is our city's water and sewer consultant, to come out and make a presentation and respond to those concerns. The commission's discussion did focus a lot on the fact that this project did not comply with the I-355 corridor master plan, and they also were interested in knowing the outcome of the Will County CED freight mobility plan. On July 11th, by a vote of 3 to 4, the motion to approve the proposed concept plan failed. There was no alternative motion made by the commission members. The applicant and the development team is present this evening. John Grueling with the Will County CED is also in attendance. If this were to move forward, staff is seeking direction to place this on the October 18th City Council agenda for final consideration.
Okay. Was Ridge going to make a presentation, or did
Yes.
this one, John? Okay, come on.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Michael Hansen. I'm an attorney with the Joliet Law Firm of Kavanaugh, Grumley, and Gorbold. Here with me tonight from Ridge Development Company, Kevin Mahoney, and also Darcy Funkhauser. Also, as Pam indicated, John Grueling is here also to speak on our behalf. I'd like just to make a few brief comments. I believe all the members of the council having an opportunity to talk with our Ridge representatives as well as see our book concerning the development. I thought the report from Pam was very good, and I'd just like to maybe make a couple comments and highlight a few specific matters for your consideration. I think everybody, first of all, knows Ridge Development Company, leading Chicago area real estate company, nationally known, 138 million square feet under lease throughout North America. As indicated by Pam, this property in 2015 was approved, a very similar exact plan for Hillwood development. Same layout, same approval. That approval lapsed, and we then entered into a contract with the owner to develop that property. A number of significant improvements and changes have been made by Ridge since that plan, which we want to highlight to the council again. The revised access permits to provide proper ingress and egress. We consolidated the truck traffic to John Lane Crossing in order to encourage circulation on a city-designated truck route. We dedicated acreage for a water system infrastructure. We've revised the layout for the proposed detention.
modified access points on 167th Street as per Will County recommendation, and providing for dedicated necessary acreage for pedestrian and bike paths. This project will provide significant benefits to the city of Lockport, among them including, first of all, economic benefits, $100 million in investment in the city of Lockport, number one, an estimated $1.8 million in annual real estate tax revenue to the taxing bodies, including approximately $160,000 to the city of Lockport when it's fully built, and 375 estimated job opportunities for the companies that will be occupying this development. As Pam indicated, a number of other donations on behalf of Ridge. Number one, 1 acre for the city water tower, 2 acres for the city well, 4.5 acres for the pedestrian bike path, construction of necessary public improvements, not only in front of our property, but also we are undertaking other public improvements in front of the Panettone property to the west that would have been done earlier by them, and we have agreed to undertake those developments as well. Extension of the public utilities to the east and south property lines, and finally, as Pam indicated, assistance with a traffic signal at the intersection of Gauger Road and 163rd. I believe the question for the council on this particular recommendation and request is this the right use for this specific property? And we would submit that it is in fact the right use for this property. The reasons why: the neighbor to the west, Panettone, has developed the exact type of similar use in buildings that we intend to construct. We are adjacent to Gauger Road. We're approximately not quite 1/2 mile from the intersection of Interstate 355 and 159th Street to provide easy access for the trucks and vehicles going from our location to that specific area. The market has changed, and John Grueling can address this, in the past couple of years, such that it's not a designated office area as is designated on the comprehensive plan, but it is an area, especially in this specific location, that is adaptable to the warehouse and industrial light use facilities. We have another matter in our specific plan. We've provided for a 600-foot buffer to the east of our proposed buildings, nearly 2 football fields wide, which should give adequate protection and buffering between those uses that we'll develop later on down the road to the east of our property. Minimal adverse impacts on any of the surrounding current neighbors and uses. And lastly, basically, no adverse impact or impact to city services based on our specific development. We would request the council place this matter on the agenda for approval of the concept plan at the next council meeting in 2 weeks. Probably before maybe we have some questions, I'd like John Grueling to come up and he can address the council on his views and comments about what's going on in this area and specifically this specific site. John?
Thank you. Wow, this is a wild mouse. Okay. First of all, I want to start out by thanking you for your attention tonight, and I also want to maintain the opportunity to come back to this group and give a full-fledged presentation on our freight mobility plan, because that's not what I'm here to do tonight. We undertook the freight mobility plan last year. The purpose was pretty simple. With the advent of 2 intermodal yards exploding in Will County as far as logistics and freight movement is concerned, we understood, and as the leadership of the county board and other municipalities, that maybe we really don't understand this business in terms of what are the impacts, and more importantly, how do we address the needs of the industry while protecting our communities. So the first thing we did was we basically took an inventory of the existing situation. We didn't know where all this freight was coming from or where it was going to. We knew the transportation channels they were taking, but we weren't exactly sure, how much was originating here, how much traffic on 80 is due to, or 355 is due to local developments versus national freight movement. And we learned a lot of different things, some things surprising, some not surprising. One thing we learned was the value of freight moving through Will County every year is over $640 billion. $640 billion, that's 3.5% of the gross U.S. domestic product. So we get a lot of stuff coming in and out and going through. The other thing that we learned is that 63% of that freight is just passing through. 63% of all the trucks you see on 80, 55, some of our local roads, and 355 is not destined to come here or is not originating from here. So we really are a bridge between the West Coast and the East Coast as far as freight movement is concerned. And unfortunately, that puts a lot of impact on our local communities, our local infrastructure, our local resources. The fact that you can look at it the other way, the fact that we've got almost 40% of the traffic that is originating or ending here locally means that we're capturing some economic value for our communities in terms of jobs, real estate investment, etc. The other thing we learned, the future is not going to change. We're going to see a 40% increase in freight movement in Will County over the next 10 years. That translates into more than a few million square feet of industrial space. But at the same time, again, the purpose of the study was to look at how do communities that want this type of development, how can they manage it for the interest of not only the industry but their citizens. So one of the things we did right off the bat was identify where is the freight activity today in Will County. And that's the map you have in front of you right now. We identified 3 superclusters, not surprising to anybody here. Bolingbrook, Romeoville, sort of the grandfather of warehouse and distribution in Will County, Elwood and Joliet, the intermodal yards, and then the concentration of industrial development over in Mooney and University Park. These, for the most part, have been the heavyweights in terms of industrial and distribution and logistics development. Romeoville, Bolingbrook is about built out. There's quite a bit of capacity in the Elwood, Joliet corridor, especially with the new development down around Wilmington, and as well as a lot of capacity on the east side along 57. And if the CSX, that little yellow blurb along that rail lane on the far eastern part of the county, builds an intermodal facility there, again, there'll be consistent and constant demand for new industrial space. So this map is not a plan in terms of this is where this development should go. This plan identifies where it is today, where communities have allowed distribution, logistics, warehousing activity to happen. The plan is not designed to predict where this should go in the future. That's not the purpose of the plan. The plan can be used as a tool, however, for communities to do analysis on freight projects. And there's a whole segment in the plan that provides some best practices for municipalities in terms of how to deal with these major freight projects. So the I-355 freight cluster is yours. You have allowed through entitlements and zoning and utility extension a fairly significant piece of the 355 corridor for industrial development. And obviously your plan, which is also on this map, shows a variety of uses. But if you look at the next page, the majority of it is designated for industrial. The total land area in this corridor is 1,420 acres. The amount of land that you have set aside for industrial development is 976 acres. Currently, there's 305 acres under development and a future 600 acres left for future development. That does include this particular parcel. Now, obviously, that's your choice in terms of granting entitlements for further development, but for our purposes, we needed to identify where the future concentration of this freight development will occur and whether or not we have capacity for new freight activity, not just along 355, but throughout the county. There's 12 buildings today, 3.1 million. There's probably a few more since the study was done in terms of square footage. We're anticipating by 2026 about 7.8 million square feet of industrial distribution space in this cluster. And again, that will be only with your approvals and entitlements as you go along with your planning. We've got tremendous access to 355 here, and obviously that's what makes us very attractive for large industrial and logistics uses. Side comment, you're not seeing the largest distribution centers in Will County. Those are going to these very large super clusters where 1 million square foot speculative buildings are being built. 1.2 million, 1.3 million, 1.4 million speculative square foot buildings are under consideration right now. So by far the heaviest lift for freight will continue to be along the I-80, I-55 corridors. This is not contemplated to be a super cluster in any way, and certainly right now is basically totally under your control. So the plan recommends that communities look at things proximity to interstate. This site is it's less than 0.6 miles to the interstate interchange, which is good. The other thing that the plan suggests is that you do not route any freight traffic through residential neighborhoods or in some way allow them to impact residential neighborhoods. That also includes the separation of regular passenger traffic as much as possible. In other words, the goal here is that if we're going to create these big freight clusters, we want trucks to go directly to the main thoroughfares, the interstate highways, without creating negative impacts on the community that's entitling these kinds of developments. Again, that's why 355 is so attractive. Proximity to market, and literally just right off the interstate as far as accessibility is concerned, not driving through town. Obviously, that's a problem that some of our other communities have. So in that sense, this is a good location for this kind of activity. So with that, I'll close. If you have any comments or questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I think the plan can provide Lockport some good guidance, and like I said, I'd like the opportunity to come back and maybe do a deeper dive on the plan itself.
Very good. Thank you, John. I appreciate you coming out here. So, I have an opinion and thought on this, and I've shared it with staff, and I've shared it with Ridge, but I'd like to hear the council's feedback on this. So, what's the opinion of the other folks that are sitting up here? Did you guys want to give a further presentation, or have you guys? So please, you guys want to just start on the end? Renee, do you want to start? You want to talk?
My only concern is that if we have too many of these industrial parks, are we going to saturate it, and 10 years from now, freight's reduced and we have vacant buildings collecting dust?
Okay.
Mayor, I can go. So I had a meeting with Ridge yesterday and explained everything, and I appreciate the packet that you guys put together and everything that you had. I think the things that I brought up at that meeting that we should discuss as a council was, right, we just went through Prologis. That was entitled, and we got beat up, right? The community really was against it and what we were actually doing. When this first got introduced, when I was a couple months in, being an alderman, brought up that question then, right? Do we need to turn everything into warehouses? Are we going to turn everything into warehouses? And if you notice in some of the comments and where everyone actually were talking in the books and other people presented in front of us, they always said, well, the people to the west, they're a warehouse, so it makes sense to just, we can build it too. We can always do the same. The question is for this council is, where do you stop? We can just keep marching east, right, with this, and then keep going east. And if that middle route comes in, then we're really going to want to go east, and then that whole swath between 163rd and 167th is going to be industrial and warehouse. So that's the tough part for us, is to figure out where do we draw that line. And John just presented, you know, where this cluster is, and he showed kind of half of that property and a little bit more of it being warehouse, but we've got a lot more warehouse on Archer. And things that are potentially could be warehouse there. And the biggest complaints that we had, and again, Ridge explained how everything's going to come up on 163rd and get to 355. But unfortunately, Lockport has Archer as a truck route, right? That was an issue with Prologis and all the warehouses at ML Realty that all the residents complain about. We have 159th Street as a truck route. We also have Division as a truck route, right? So we're sandwiched in between all of this stuff. As a warehouse area, great. It would be great to have, you have that 355. That's the pro of 355 is the warehouses and everything, and we can build it. The con is we are a historic city with a historic background and residential city. So this is growing pains. This is trying to figure out where we stand and what balance do we need. As an architect, I look at our comprehensive plan, and I've told to Ben, I've told to Ridge, I've told to the mayor, you know, there's smarter people than us that created a comprehensive plan to kind of create a diversity in our town in terms of warehouses, residential, commercial, office spaces, whatever it may be. And if you look at surrounding towns, the ones that prosper very well is they have that diversity so that they can sit there and say, in an economic downturn for office spaces, they have something else they can rely on, right? If one market segment is not busy, if it's got a lot of vacancies, the other one supports it. And if trends change, other ones can support it. So it's a diversity in our marketplace, diversity in what residences we have. That's essentially the name of the game, so you don't become, right, we all heard it at Prologis, right? We don't become Hodgkins. We don't become all those places that is all warehouses and so forth. So I told them, I'm like, I'm neither for or against this project, but it's a discussion that we need to have, that there's a lot of stuff that's here, and where do we stop? Where do we kind of say draw the line? If we say we accept this one, is the next developer that comes in says, I can't build residences there, right? Even though there's a 500-foot buffer, there's no way I can market residences. And if not, then it's going to be townhomes and so forth, right? It's going to be a lot more density, which is going to really compile a lot more onto our residential or our streets and so forth. When Sagebrook, before Sagebrook came in, it was warehouses, right? The developer that was there said, you'll never build houses in that property. It's right next to 355. And that was the question that got brought up to the board. And there are houses there now, right? So there's a lot of people that say, where's that market and where's that? None of us have that crystal ball. John doesn't have that crystal ball. Ridge doesn't have that, right? It's whatever is hot in the market right now, you're building that, and they have to make money. They have to do their business. They're running their numbers. But us as a community and representatives of the community, that's our tough problem. And I've told them that they came in at the worst time after Prologis. They put us in a spot, right, that we're, right, it's hypersensitive to everything that's going on in the community and what the community wants. So this is a tough decision. But especially with the planning and zoning dropping, you know, knocking it down completely. So some thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Christina?
Yeah, we don't have a crystal ball, that's true, but freight's not going away. I mean, our economy is going towards that with Amazon and everything else. So we're doing a lot of moving. I like the fact that it's going to bring revenue into the city that we can use for projects. I do understand the need for a balance, but I think that balance is already there. That's all I have.
JR, what are your thoughts?
Actually, Christina almost said my thoughts exactly. I was on the council 2 years ago when we approved the Hillwood, was almost identical to this. And I've seen no change in those 2 years, besides, if you want to say, throw Prologis into it. But that still doesn't change what was going to be done with this land 2 years ago. And I still think it's a good fit. I'm with Christina. I like the idea of, bringing in, the 1.8 million or something in real estate. The only thing I question, when I questioned Ridge on it, because it happened with Hillwood, is always this rush for time, rush for time. We almost they said, oh, we got to have a decision today because my potential customer needs commitment now. And here, if I had my perfect world, I would say, well, let's hold off on this because I'd like to see what's going to happen. But I understand we need to make a commitment, and I think it's going to be, this property is going to be developed this way. If it's not next year, in 10 years or 20 years, when it happens, it's going to happen. So why don't we take advantage of the money as soon as possible? The one thing they do need to redesign, which you don't have, you're talking about the John Lane crossing. It does not have access to 3 and 4, and I don't know how you were going to come up with that, buildings 3 and 4. I don't know if you want to address that now, or if this is just part of the concept. I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's a big point. This is part of concept plan. We'll certainly need to fix some of that ingress and egress along John Lane Crossing, and certainly we're aware of that. But yeah, at this point, we're focused more on the concept itself.
Okay. Yeah. But in general, I think it's a good use for the property, and I think we should go ahead with it. Because I believe, yes, it's going to bring in trucks, but I think any person knows that these trucks don't want to come downtown Lockport as much as you and I want to come, cross the bridge here. We all want to come down and spend some time down here, but we don't want to have to cross the bridge. So, and that's the last thing they want to do as well. So they're going to be looking to get onto 355 as soon as possible. So those are my thoughts.
All right, thank you, JR. Jason?
I don't really necessarily disagree with what anybody has said. It just comes down to an opinion of really kind of what you want, right? I agree freight is not going away. I agree that I think Ridge is making fair concessions for what they're trying to do in the property, right? They've actually made some additional concessions compared to what Hillwood had previously. There was a lot that wasn't said here that was in our packet about demand for the area and demand for the type of property. There's no doubt that there's demand for warehousing and freight. The decision and the opinion really needs to be, what do we want it to be, right? And I keep going back to, we're spending money to try to avoid the middle alignment that's coming through, right through this area, for a couple of reasons, but one of the main ones is to try to, in my mind at least, is to try to preserve this area as a buildable area for Lockport, right? And if we continue to go east with warehousing, we're only shortening the gap between Victoria Crossing West and these developments to where it's going to become, this is developments or nothing, or warehousing developments or nothing. And if that's the case, quite frankly, we might as well have not spent our money on stopping the middle alignment from coming through the area. Obviously, that's my opinion, and people are definitely right to have their own. I do agree that it's close to 355. That works relatively well for trucks. The big thing is, and I'm not necessarily scared because of the reaction we got from Panattoni, but we've got a lot of warehousing still to be built over the next 3 to 5 years, and even their neighbors and across Gauger from there is being built and not occupied yet. I'm of the opinion that we've got master plans that call for transitional areas. We're trying to stop the middle alignment to come through this area. I feel like we're trying to sort of preserve a little bit of what Lockport is over in this area, and that this specific development does not help our cause in those ways. So while I agree it's an opinion, and I respect others' opinions to kind of weigh those facts and go the other way, I am not in favor of this development in this location.
All right, thank you, Jason. Darren?
I have a different of opinion here than Jason's, and I respect Jason's opinion here. We have to go ahead and look at what could this be? What could this land be? A couple years ago, 5 of us sitting up here have already voted yes for virtually the exact same thing, and really the only thing different, and from my viewing of this development is the eastern road, where we actually were going to have a connection to 106 to Division Street, which no longer exists. So other than that, it's identical. So then we have to look at, well, what other uses could this be? Well, it could remain agricultural, which for a year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. It could become residential, which is fine. I don't know how many houses you can put on that, but just remember, houses mean increased taxes. For the people who live in the school districts in that area, houses mean kids. And that's a decision that we're going to have to look at when this middle alignment finally, Will County finally comes to their senses and gets rid of the middle alignment and uses Bruce Road all the way out to Cedar Road as its potential route. So, and there will be houses. So we're going to be looking at houses, you know, 500, 600, 700 houses just to the west of Victoria Crossing West. And in the consideration for those who live out in Homer 33C, that's another school that they're going to have to build. The high school, have more kids going there. But that's something that, you know, we won't have that answer for another 3 to 4 years. Why it should take that long, who knows? Could probably get it done next week, but that's the way the process is. So I'm in favor of this. So when it comes before us in a couple of weeks, I'll be voting yes.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Joanne?
So when it was first proposed, it just seemed, oh, sorry. Start again. When this was first proposed, you know, I felt, okay, what was it originally supposed to be, the master plan? What was it for? It just seems logical for what they're doing compared to what is already there. It just seems logical that this would be a perfect fit. I know that something, you know, some zoning or has to be done because it's not quite fit the need. To me, it just seems like the project and the warehouses seem that they should be a perfect fit right where they are. Residential, I don't think anyone wants to live that close to warehouses, as we know with Prologis, and they, you know, had some kind of buffer, but they were used to the empty field, and they thought that was going to stay like that forever. Unfortunately, things do change. It would be a shame to miss the opportunity and the funds that can come in to help relieve the tax burden on residents. I think that's always been a cry to everyone that our taxes are too high. This could help alleviate that problem too. So I am in favor of the project.
All right, thank you, Joanne. Catherine?
I'm going to have to side right now with planning, where they said no. The concept failed 3 to 4. I'm going to take some of their advice there. Additionally, today at 4:40, when I was coming back to my house at the intersection of 167th and Gauger, the stop sign was all the way up on Gauger to 163rd, stopped to the top of the hill there. And so traffic flow is pretty bad right now there. And so we have one more warehouse to develop. Don't know where that traffic's going to go. You add in another 364 or 364 jobs. I don't know if they're going to come down Gauger, but I happen to live off of Gauger with one entrance exiting onto Gauger. And so as that traffic comes at certain times of the day, I can't exit my subdivision. And so for that reason too, with traffic flow, I don't want to see this coming. So I'm going to go with what planning said, 3 to 4 with a failure, and traffic flow, because we don't know what the rest of these warehouses are going to look like when they're filled. So until that comes, to me, that seems to be a decision we need to factor in with traffic. Thank you.
If I could, for the record, for the Planning and Zoning Commission, they didn't really vote to disapprove or deny the application. It was a failure of the motion to approve, so there was no recommendation from that body.
It says the proposed concept plan
The
failed.
motion to approve failed. There was no subsequent motion to deny.
Okay, so it wasn't approved, but it wasn't denied, in other words. Okay.
Can I just say one thing, just as I heard a couple of times, like, residents wouldn't want to live next to the existing, I'm drawing a blank on what the name, it was Panattoni, now it's something else. And so that's why this is the natural fit. And I actually do
Just on the side that it's
right,
going to be
just,
on.
I do understand that. But all we're doing now is by building a similar development to the east, is we're just moving that further east, right? And eventually we're going to get to the point where we already have residents, right? And so I think we're losing that a little bit, right? This is kind of a residential area. There is obviously Gauger and 355 right there that's going to turn into, Gauger is a main truck route, 163rd will become trucks, Division is a truck route, Cedar is a truck route, right? It's going to become a pretty main thoroughfare. And again, it's an opinion, but is that what we intend this area to be? That's just
Code allows 60 feet, I think is it 60 feet? I think code allows the next subdivision to be built within 60 feet. What you're getting here is almost 600 feet. So there is a much greater setback than what could be produced behind Panattoni.
Can I just want to add one comment about real estate, even though I'm not a real estate agent. We're talking, if we put this here, then most likely no residential will want to be to the east of it. Well, I don't think we have the knowledge to say that. I mean, when Sagebrook went up, I would have told people, well, who would want to live in Sagebrook? Who wants to have 355 right in front of their house? Or who wants to have Panduit on their north? I mean, nobody's going to want to go to Sagebrook. So to say that this is here to my west doesn't say I'm not going to build a house next to it to the east of it, because a lot of these people who are making the decision to go to Sagebrook are probably the same people who would make a decision to go to whatever subdivision might be east of it, because they're going to have the same access to the highway as the 355 that the trucks will. So I don't think you could just say, no, it's going to be warehouses going on to the east and east and east just because this one is approved. So that's my opinion on real estate. I mean, because I don't think you could say where, if somebody puts in a nice subdivision next to it, somebody might buy there.
Okay.
And JR, I agree with you, because when you have the right buffers and things like that, and a builder comes in and builds a subdivision, you're right, people will buy. So it doesn't always have to be negative. There could possibly be residential on the other side. But we're talking right now. We're not talking what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen, in the future. So it's just.
We had that presentation, right, from Tesco about what good planning is, right? To understand every good community is planned, right? You want straight roads, you want the buffers, you go from industrial down to, different step down industrial, like, some commercial, then residential, maybe townhomes, then residential, single family. You need those buffers. We have some oddities in town for sure, right? Sagebrook is right up against 355, but that was a better alternative than warehouses right against Karen Springs, 40-foot warehouses. So you got to think about who are the future people, who are moving in next to warehouses, right? The people in Creekside, they all said unanimously, they're like, we knew it was zoned that, we didn't think it was going to be 40-foot warehouses. That's what that translation goes to. So this transition zone is essentially stepping down the size of the building, the size of the traffic, the size of the use, the noise, all that stuff to views. So when you're actually doing that, and if we were to say, yeah, let's take this transitional zone, turn it to warehouse. I would say if that was what our consensus is as a group, then the next parcels would be the transitional zone. So, and then people would say, right, have the same comment and say, there is no market for that. There is nothing that's there. So it's either going to be warehouses or somebody's going to build homes right next to warehouses. So, and that's the tough part that's about it. But, and again, where do we draw that line and just keep marching down? We can change every zoning in the state. If we're worried about schools, get rid of all new residential that's potentially coming, if we're going to be afraid of that, and just turn it into office, retail, and industrial. And that'll help out everyone that's here. But we've already heard from the community, they don't want that. They don't want the trucks. John talked about all the industrial is going to grow. Doesn't mean it has to be in Lockport where we've got a big concentration of residences, right? There's a lot of open space. There's a lot of open farms everywhere else that, it can grow, and it can grow. You're seeing it down south. So again, not for or against this, but I want us to be very informed about all the decisions that we're making and the difficulties about some of them. So.
Guy, did you have something you wanted to add to this discussion?
Quick. Mayor?
Excuse me. Could I just, if I could just make one clarification point or just one additional point, because the council is asking very intelligent questions here and comments, and that is, I think it's very significant in this, in our case, that it's the 600 feet to the east of our proposed development are pipelines. And that is the reason, in our opinion, why you're not going to continue to see industrial development going to the east. Now, everyone's going to have an opinion here as to whether they're going to do residential where we want to put our industrial, vice versa. But it's not just a 600-foot buffer to have a buffer. You know, there are certain restrictions in that property that means essentially almost nothing can be built. And I think that planning professionals would tell you, generally speaking, then you're not going to see that continued industrial use continue to the east. Now so I think that's just a little bit of different factor than just a plain buffer. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that fact. So thank you.
Thanks. Guy?
My name is Guy Scalzetti. Address is 15624 West 163rd Street. The proposed ridge development is actually going to be right across the street from my house and my neighbor to the east and one neighbor to the west. Just wanted to throw out a few concerns. One of my biggest concerns was truck traffic. Even though John Lane Crossing is there now, and all the trucks are supposed to enter and exit onto that road into the Panattoni development, there's plenty of trucks that completely disregard that and blow right by that and head east down 163rd Street. If the new development is there, that's going to add more truck traffic, which is, how is that going to be controlled? Especially with the weight limit on that street that it seems as though everybody disregards. So that was one of my concerns. Another concern of mine is the passenger car turn lane starts where my driveway is, obviously across the street from it, and then as the turn lane ends where you would complete the turn to go into the development off of 163rd Street, it's right across the street from my neighbor's house, the Thompsons, which would create a ton of traffic, which would then maybe even at some point require stop signs and traffic lights or what have you. So maybe one of my ideas was if this development does go through, if we could just take all the truck traffic and all the passenger car traffic and make it on John Lane's crossing. Everybody can share that. Let them deal, let the employees and truckers deal with the traffic, not us. Those were a couple of my big concerns. Another concern I had was if the development is going to be there, whatever the case may be, the higher the landscape buffer, the better, because our houses actually, as opposed to the Panattoni development, the subdivision just to the north of Panattoni, their houses face east and west. So when they're looking out the front or the back of their houses, they're not looking at Panattoni. Well, our houses all face front and back, north and south. So we would be looking directly out to the new development. So that if that development is going to be there, the higher the buffer, the better. That way, we don't have to look at them, which is fine. So that was another suggestion. Possibly even some sort of a landscape buffer on our side of the street as well. Just another suggestion. One of my other concerns was keeping the buildings, the height of the buildings as low as possible. You know, I just got done working at the Moni Distribution Center for Amazon. The ceilings were 50 feet high. So the lower the better. And then another thing that I would like to address, I noticed that Pamela had mentioned something at her opening statement that the well and water tower were proposed but not necessarily going to be part of the plan if the construction moves forward. If and when the construction moves forward and the water tower and well do become part of the plan, one of our real concerns is our wells going dry, because the well that we're on private wells, which are probably only a couple of 100 feet deep, and this is supposed to be what the gentleman said from, is that business card over there, Ash, by my phone? Can I have it, please? What the gentleman said from Strand Associates, his name was Chris Ulm. He said that it was going to be a deep well, which was going to be approximately 500 and some feet deep, I believe. But that really isn't considered a deep well. A deep well is really something that is over 1,000 feet deep. So a well at this depth, based upon what he said, could not guarantee the fact that our wells would not go dry. So in the event our wells did go dry, would the city of Lockport be willing to drill our wells deeper at their expense so we have water? He also said that in the midst of drilling those wells, or that particular well, that our water would be disturbed, the flow would be cut in half or more, and the clarity of the water would be, it would be very, very cloudy and even worse than cloudy. I understand that we're just a few residents, but I would really like and appreciate it if you guys took our concerns into consideration.
All right, very good. Thank you, Guy. Thanks for coming up. All right, well, let me give you my thoughts on this. So I think Ridge is a very good, very reputable developer. I think they would do a good job. I have the highest regard for John Grueling, his opinions, and the hard work he's done. My feeling, though, my belief on this is that, you know, we have a comprehensive plan that calls for transitional development here. And while that market may not be hot, this land isn't currently in the city of Lockport. It needs to be annexed in. So we have some ability to make decisions here that we don't always have when lands are entitled. Prologis, Chevron, those kind of properties, they had entitlements. And even those properties, we have worked hard to find compromises. Chevron worked hard to get a 10-acre buffer for them to donate to us at the bottom half so that we could buffer, so we've worked towards that. Even with Prologis, we tried to find ways to move the one industrial building out of the south, north of the creek, and convert that to residential, and they gave us some flexibility for a commercial building along 171. So we've tried to fit in these things as best we can with entitled properties. So those are things that's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to say no to, because these landowners have rights. This one's different, though. This one we have the opportunity to follow a comprehensive plan and let it play out a little bit. My belief on this is that, and it's been said a couple times here tonight, is our business parks aren't yet built out. Right now, when they're all built out, we'll have almost, 8.5 million square feet of industrial space in Lockport. And that's if Chevron gets built out, and that's when Prologis, it comes in. And trying to find the right balance for our city, to me, is very important. I don't want to be a bedroom community where we're all residential and there's no work and everybody has to leave town to go to work. Nor do I want to be an entirely industrial community where, we have a daytime population of 50,000 like Elk Grove Village, and at night everybody goes. So I think we have a really unique city that we can find good balance with. And I think as we wait to see how this business parks, as they fill out in Prologis, possibly Chevron may very well start to come online soon. One of the things that's held it up for all these years is The fact that the flood study had to get complete. It's almost completed now. There's a really good possibility that that development will begin to move forward. I'd like to see the full impact of these developments on our traffic patterns and how it affects our city before we would make a decision like this. We don't have a crystal ball. It's true. Nobody knows. In 10 years, distribution may be more than what it is. It may change completely. When the comprehensive plan was first made years ago for this corridor, it was, all going to be office and high-tech jobs, right? That's what was hoped for. Nobody anticipated this kind of distribution network. So things come and things change, and but because we're under no obligation to see this parcel, because it's not yet annexed, I'd rather be prudent and wait to see how the rest of our developments play out and how we can make sure that we can control those traffic patterns and make sure that, as right now, we find trucks, they go every which way they want to go. And while I think our law enforcement has done a good job trying to get those off-route trucks, corralled, and I think the GPSs are helping that, it's still problematic. And I know that Will County just went to Washington to try to find funding to help fund, the infrastructure that's desperately needed in this region for all this kind of changes that we've seen with the intermodals and the truck traffic. But that money's not yet here. The High Bridge, which we all desperately want and need as we look out right in front of us here on 159th Street and we see traffic backed up, that's our one east-west corridor. That's it. That's the way you get a back and forth pretty much out of this city. The other High Bridge would help that tremendously, but everyone, when we talk about it, just kind of says, yes, we need it, but then we just kind of stare at our feet and say, oh yeah, well, maybe one day. But until we know that there's real funding and real abilities to have that kind of infrastructure, again, I don't think it's prudent to change and bring in a piece of property that's not yet entitled and to give it an entitlement for this. I'd rather take a slower approach and see how things play out with our existing business parks. So that's my view on it. I know also that, there was an approved concept plan a few years ago, but yes, in fact, Prologis jumped in front of it. And it's not that I don't mind taking lumps if I think it's right. The difference is trying to find a balance is when we added 1.9 million square feet potentially at Prologis, that pushes me, in my beliefs, over the edge of, that takes us more than 25% of our city being industrial and commercial, or industrial use. And I think I'd like to try to keep a balance here in our city. And this is our opportunity to follow what we have as a comprehensive plan. So my opinion is to stay, is to deny at this time and see how things play out in our community here over the next few years. If in fact this property is, if the trend continues to grow, and as John mentioned that, we're going to see a 40% increase in the next 10 years, that means this property will still be viable for such a development in a few years from now. And if we find that our business parks are filled out and we are getting a handle on how traffic flows, then great. Ed Zabrocki can still sell his property and make a dime, right? And so I'm not here to stop development, but I'd like to make sure that we control it the best we can so that it's best for our citizens and our growth. So those are my opinions on this project. So yes, ma'am, please.
My name is Emma Zabrocki. I am one of 3 daughters. My father bought that property in 1938. I resent you saying Ed Zabrocki when it is myself and my 2 sisters that own that property.
And forgive me, I've only talked to Ed about the property. So my apologies for using Ed's name, because he's the person I've talked to in the past.
I don't think so. I think you've talked to me in the past and my sisters in the past as well, Steve.
That may be so, but I know that I just can think of the Ed Zabrocki conversation, so.
I would point out to you as well that this property had been approved in the past by Lockport. We moved forward in good faith, my 2 sisters and I, with the thought that Lockport would continue to move forward as they had in the past on that property. We have gone ahead in good faith with what we consider to be a company that was very, very aware of the needs of the people around us. We want to be good neighbors. It is hard to farm where we are farming, and you can tell that we're not spring chickens. How long can we continue to farm this piece? We have snowmobilers that run through our property and destroy our winter wheat. We have no trespassing signs posted. It does no good. We have golf balls that have pocketed the aluminum siding on our house, thanks to one of our neighbors. I don't know if it's one of you that are here, but there's a person that likes to hit golf balls. We can't mow our lawn without having the little kids in our family away from the lawnmower. In the event that we've missed a golf ball in our yard, that will become a deadly projectile. That's the joys of living in the country that is not the country anymore. We have a very historic barn on that property. We are donating that barn to a neighbor who, I noticed a shirt here that has the Kono Farm on it. He's going to take it down and rebuild it if we sell the farm. We're hoping that Lockport will look at the past and the fact that they have approved it in the past. We've moved forward in good faith with a company that we thought was adhering to that original plan that had been approved. Steve, I don't know where we're going. We don't have too many years left. And you cannot farm that farm and make money. It's too small a farm. You can't move farm machinery from one place to another. There are people that come up behind us. We can get thrown off that road because of the people that try to go around us. You turn over a tractor, you're not going to come out alive. And that's part of the problems that we didn't create. Perhaps some of the people that have moved into the farmland have created it, but we didn't as the original farmers. 1939, that's when my dad bought that farm.
And I agree with you, Mr. Pisapbrocki. I'm not here to not have your property viable. And I try to work that way with all the property owners we have that are in the city and have current zoning. This one's different. And the fact that it's going to have an impact on our city, it's our job to make sure that we look out for the whole and not the one. And so it's important to us to, consider all these things. Again, as I said, I want to see how things play out before we make a decision that affects many, many people. And I meant no disrespect, ma'am. Okay, so let's put it on for an action item next week, and we can vote on it then.
For our next meeting, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, you said next week. I
always mean next meeting.
Okay.
My apologies. All right, what else you got, Pam?
The last item I have is that Tim Geisler, on behalf of ML Realty Partners, is requesting a reduction to their letter of credit for building number 9, which is located at 15901 West 147th Street in Heritage Crossing Corporate Center. The original letter of credit, like the many others out there, were established at the start of the project. It's dated November 18, 2016. It was in the amount of $789,176.30. There have been no reductions to date. The site and public improvements have been inspected and approved, and therefore they're seeking to reduce down to their one-year maintenance bond or 10% of the original amount, which would be $78,918, and then would be held for 1 year. Staff did complete a landscape inspection. All the proposed material is found in good condition. There were 3 dead trees, but they have subsequently been replaced. We will do a follow-up inspection in the spring to confirm that the material is thriving and that it's still in compliance with the approved plan. Therefore, we are recommending approval of this reduction, and we would ask that the council place this on the next city council agenda for final action.
All right, questions, concerns? Sounds pretty straightforward, everyone? All right, we'll put this on for consent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, what do you got next? Oh, I'm sorry, Brent, you're up. I thought it was another Pam thing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I do have 2 items for consideration, and then also I'd like to give just an update on where our work is across the city on our various projects at the end of the couple items that I have. First off, Valley and 8th, this would be for the design engineering services. This project is included in our 2018 CIP that we will discuss next. This would be the design work to be done ahead of the construction season. Again, our goal is to get everything done so we can have a favorable bid in the spring. As you can see, we have Chamlin Engineers in the amount of $40,000 for the design. The cost of the project, construction cost, is about $825,000. That's the estimate at this time. And then another $80,000 would be in the Phase 3 engineering. Down the line here, if we are able to backfill some staff, that is something that could be done in-house. So that $80,000 would be something that would be considered in-house. This is strictly for the design. The project would be, again, Valley and 8th. It would be water main, curb, pavement, a little bit of storm sewer work, and then sidewalks. Any questions? I would gladly take those this time. I will be working with Chamlin and the rest of our engineers still on the master agreements that we've talked about. So we have master agreements. Sunny and I have been working through that. This is I don't want to say a draft. This is their proposal to us, but we will have these master agreements. This is not the agreement that we will sign, but this shows the scope and then the cost.
All right, thoughts, questions, concerns?
Well, it's needed. That's a bad street.
It is bad.
All right. Any issues with the consent vote on this? Okay.
Guys, you guys are getting everyone on those, all the engineers. Right?
That is correct. Yes. Next item up is the CIP. This is the document that I know everybody has been anxiously awaiting. Put a lot of time and effort into this. All staff has. I've tried to do my best in getting all staff input. So water, wastewater, streets, engineering. We've really tried to take an approach to get everybody involved. After the projects that we had previously done, there were some areas of the city that, one of the things that I'm hearing since I've been here, not to get into too much detail this evening, but is the water quality. So water quality is something that I've heard in my short time here that has become very clear. So a lot of these projects, when you read through, you'll see their connections, and it's, well, what are these water connections? These are areas that right now we're continuously flushing hydrants trying to get water quality levels up. We've got a situation where we've got a small hose that goes out into a storm sewer that we're just trying to continue that flow so it's not a dead end. We're eliminating those with this project. So that's a big piece of this. So some of the projects that you guys maybe have never seen or had not maybe heard of in the past, those are some of those. But again, this is a comprehensive package that is in need over the next 10 years. We have some ideas, some options at the bottom. The B-list projects, just to give everybody a little bit of an idea, those are projects that will be needed. The exact time when they will be needed, that's what we're working through right now. For instance, the Division Street STP expansion, we're still working on exactly when that's going to be needed. A lot of that is an unknown. A lot of the discussions we had this evening on when will our population hit this point? When will our industrial needs? What if we get a new food processing plant? Those things are what will ultimately impact our needs down there. So I've said we certainly don't want to get too far ahead. We don't want to build something that takes care of us for the next, what we think is 20 years, and it ends up taking care of us for the next 200 years. I certainly don't want to get there, but I don't want to have to come back to you and tell you at some point that we can't accept this new development that we think would be a fantastic development because we don't have the capacity. So that's the line that we're trying to walk here and trying to bring to you with the best recommendations we can. this evening, really what the capital improvement program plan that we're bringing to you is a first look for you, give you guys some time to hopefully review it. I would ask that we would have a meeting that's maybe it can't be solely devoted, but majority of the time would be devoted to really discussing these, talking about some options. We've been working very hard with finance to try and figure out some options maybe in the future for some funding mechanisms. A lot of questions. I know it's a lot of information, but that's what I would be requesting, and I think staff in general, we would be looking for a kind of a secondary meeting to devote a lot of time to this.
You want to try to find a committee of the whole meeting where we just have a light agenda?
Correct.
Okay.
So are you looking for a decision by December, a decision by March, a decision by June?
I need a 2018 decision very quickly.
Well, 2018 is one thing.
Well, decision this year for 2018.
Correct. So 2018, if we want to pull that out, I can gladly pull that out for our next council meeting and it'd be consideration.
Additional details.
It's our job to sit here all night if we have to. Why don't we just put it on for the next committee of the whole? Give us a couple weeks to take a look at this, and if God willing, the agenda is light, great. If not, so be it, right? So
just so you know, the items that are in 2018 are in the budget request for 2018 already, so they're already there. I think the necessity of discussing these further years will run into the part where we're going to run out of money at some point. We have to talk about other things to how to get to doing more that you want to do. But I wouldn't feel too hurried that you have to put it on the next one if you want to take more time with it, whether it's a separate meeting where it's just a workshop about this information in the future, or as you suggest, if you want to do it as part of any future committee of the whole, we can do that. So, but I just want to clarify that the money you see requested for 2018 is in the current request for the budget in 2018, and we'll be presenting the budget on the next meeting. So I don't know if you really want to get into the budget presentation and the CIP presentation at the same time.
Well, how would you like to see it proceed, Brent? Would you like to have a meeting, how would you like to present it to us? Because this is a lot of hard work that you put together, and I know you want to have the proper amount of time.
It is. I guess I would like 2018 to be considered as part of the budget meeting next week. I think that would be, or 2 weeks from now, I think that would be the proper time, because again, it's already in the budget, so if we hear during that budget discussion that it's not something you guys are looking for, then that answers my questions. The actual program as a whole, I would love a workshop. I don't know, I know those are kind of a little maybe different scenario, but I mean, there is a lot of information here, and it's going to take a lot, and there's going to be some information. So I would probably say, a month, 6 weeks from now would get us kind of through some of the construction that we have going on. I feel like it would kind of, hopefully, we would be trailing off from some of the items that we have going on right now. I don't know if, again, I'm just throwing that out there, maybe around the first, the 1st of December.
Okay. So if I'm hearing it right, let's commit to talking about everything up into 2018 next week.
Correct.
And then we can look at the 2019 and beyond a little bit more at our leisure. Come back and see when we want to do that with a light agenda, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay.
Might be right before Thanksgiving, could be pretty light anyway.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Yeah, I asked, so when you're presenting these, right, I said before, right, CIP was done before I got here. I left that alone and tried to get into it. Darren knows where these were before and things really got rearranged. Please point those out, like, hey, that was supposed to be in 2030, and we were pulling it up, and this one we're pushing down.
Well, I can answer that question right now. Is probably 90% of what we see here wasn't included.
None of it's new.
Wasn't.
It's all brand new.
It's a new stuff.
Only the ones that have numbers. If you look at that far column, the ones that have numbers were at one time in the CIP or identified.
Until it starts with like 18 dash, it was originally 2018, right? If it starts with 20 dash, it was originally 2020 in the first CIP.
So the project number on the first column of the big sheet.
Well, and then the second thing I asked is that when we're looking at this, we don't have this Farrell Division Briggs thing again, that every one of these are present them, right, photos, aerial photos, if somebody's explaining this, like, this is the condition of that road, this is what we're looking at, there's a view, what's in town, what's not in town, right, what's unincorporated, not incorporated, and what are issues for each one of these things. So that's where I was always saying, you know, if there was a workshop that everyone could kind of talk about this and go, because to be honest, I talked to Ben about the Central Square resurface, and it's only $40,000, but Brian, I don't know why this parking lot means, I don't know if it's the front one, but that one doesn't mean resurfacing other than some manhole work. So again, looking at it again, it's just saying, I don't have the time, I don't want to look at it. So the stuff that I do see, and if I have questions on it, it'd be like, why are we doing that? Why is it emergent? Why is it 2018 versus somewhere else?
Well, that's fine. So we can hash that out next
Through
meeting.
those. So I'd like to call attention to the very bottom of page 2 as well, something we call B lists. You'll see quite a few projects that are a certain portion of additional streetscape, potential future wells, you know, a lot of additional projects that we don't have those triggers, we don't have funding identified at all, and we don't have a trigger for when we may or may not need those. You know, the treatment plant, we know expansion will probably be something we have to address, but that could be 10 years, it could be 15 years, it could be sooner. So we'll know a lot more after an IEPA audit in 2020, but for now, we wanted to make sure we at least put it on the B list, that it's something that we're aware of. We call it unconstrained. It's a project of awareness that's probably going to be required, but we don't have any funding identified to complete it.
But just to be clear, and I understand that, but when we talk about funding, not that we won't, but we currently don't have funding through 2027 either, right? So don't assume everything else is automatically
Great
funded
point, thank you, because
we've got a lot to figure out on the funding side.
if you follow these projects that are in this CIP, you will run into shortages as early as 2020. And so you're not going to get very far. And then as far out as 2027 or 2029, you'll see like a $9 million deficit. I mean, we're going to have to figure out whether we're going to have serious conversations about raising revenues to complete those projects, or we're going to have to prioritize more and slow down and do less or bond out. And so those are those conversations. And I think, I know Lisa's eager to get into those conversations, but I think until the council, until the council kind of directs us in regards to what projects they think are important and when, then we'll be able to provide you funding mechanisms to complete them, if that makes sense. It's on the B list. It's the same project. However, we took out Division, as we believe Division is going to be doing that anyway. And again,
county's doing
it's
that
an
fully funded
right.
project.
So if anything, we would reapply for an ITEP grant at some point with your approval, that we just go after Briggs or Farrell, right, or those portions. It was something that was a legacy project that was contentious, and we felt it was important to put it on the B list, that it's out there, and we can apply for ITEP grants towards it again, but we just didn't feel it was a priority to put it in the next few years unless you guys tell us to. Right?
Okay.
We tried to think of everything, but we weren't sure where to put everything.
Can I just ask a question looking at this? It's small in the grand scheme of things, but we show $50,000 for Homer Township resurfacing every year. Isn't that supposed to be 100? I know there's some discussion, but
it fluctuates. We don't have a contract with them that says they have to pay a certain amount. Currently, the current Township Roadways Commissioner, Mike DeVivo, last year he gave us 100. This year he let us know he was only going to be able to afford to give us 50. We have felt that if he provides more money, we'll do more resurfacing in his area. If he provides less, we'll do less.
But didn't we like 3 years ago have a kind of a spat about this, and then it kind of came to, okay, we'll give you $100,000 a year and let it go. We didn't cement that in any way. We just verbally.
He let me know over the phone a few weeks ago that it was going to be short, that it wasn't going to be the $100,000 that was originally discussed. He said his intent was to make it $100,000 next year. He was going to be here at the last meeting to explain it. We'll bring him in at the next meeting or as soon as we can to handle his concerns.
Yes, please.
So our planning only shows the 50 because that's what we feel. At this point, we feel confident in the 50, but beyond that.
I mean, I would obviously like to actually hold him to the 100 that he agreed to last time we had an issue with them, and then plan for 100, but understand why you would put 50 then.
Is there a reason we're trying to do 15 million next year and then the, subsequent years are a lot lower? Would we not want to space that to be
We
a little
have
less.
money in excess reserves that's available to catch up. We're still completing a lot of the catch-up period that we had in the last CIP. Could it be spread out a little bit? Sure. I mean, we've had discussions on different parts, and I think that's what we'll get into at that next meeting is, what do you feel is a priority? If you feel we should be a little slower until we talk about revenues later, that's up to the council. These are entirely policy decisions for the council to dictate how much money and how many projects we do each year.
Yeah, so let's do this. Everybody take this home, absorb it, and then we'll discuss those things for the 2018 at the next committee. I think it's probably the best thing to do. Make sure we move Darren Street to 2027.
I didn't hear what you said there, so
that's all right.
And then I'll, really quickly, I'll just go over construction updates across the city. I know we have a large amount of construction work still going on, and I know it's extending this year. You know, it's extending late in the year, so I know everybody's anxiously awaiting some of these completing. North and McGregor, the week of the 13th of October, the surface will be down up there. I know that's around the school. We're trying to work that into this weekend, but with the rain that's occurring and then going to continue to occur, I don't know if we're going to be able to get that lined up with Columbus Day like we were originally hoping. 2nd Street Bridge, October 6th. It will officially be open.
All right.
October 6th. So
Just 2 days from now. Friday.
It is. The contractor, you know, we had some good discussions, and throughout the project, we were able to hold them to the completion date, which was October 6th. They were out there today. We went out and we inspected the paint, and so the surface will be down tomorrow. It will be open after tomorrow. I'll say Friday for sure, but October 6th. The key to that being open is 13th Street, the culverts that are going in, that I know everybody's probably seen the signs and starting to hear a little bit about. Canal Street south of 9th, that will be closed for the next week and a half, starting Monday. So this is why it's so key to get Canal North open. So the 2nd Street Bridge, that's going to be back open, so that route's going to be open. The 13th Street is part of, I think the mayor mentioned it earlier, the west side water study that was done, stormwater study that was done, floodplain. This is the kind of that last piece to this whole thing being completed and the final submittal. So when those culverts are in, we're done. Everything gets submitted, and hopefully we can get that final agreement from FEMA. 13th, 14th, Washington, Jefferson. That is the water main project. I'm sorry, it was water main, but it's the 2017 reconstruction project. Landscaping will be next week, so the week of the 9th, and then resurfacing, our surface course going down will be the week of the 16th. And so again, this was confirmed today. We met with the contractor, had a good meeting with them, and this was conveyed to me just today. So week of the 16th, surface will be down. All of that work will be done. 2017 water main, which is all the fun that we have out here on Illinois 7, 9th Street right out in front, along with some other locations on State Street and across the city. October 31st, that's what the big goal is, to get everything wrapped up, buttoned up. They're doing concrete right now. Concrete's taking a little bit of time with the rain, but again, the goal is October 31st for everything to be open back up. That is 9th Street, so right out in front of City Hall. And then if you go down to State Street at about 17th, I want to say about 17th or 18th and State, that we had a project down there. Beamy, there was a little bit of work on Beamy, and then North and McGregor was the other big piece of that water main work. 2017 resurfacing. It's a very good project this year. We're going to get a lot of work done, but it's just starting now. This work will be done by Thanksgiving. This includes quite a few different locations across the city. Find my notes here. We've got, let me think about this. Holly Court, we've got 8th Street, Summit from 7th down to Illinois 7. Hamilton from 2nd to 3rd. One or two other streets that I'm missing, but you'll actually see we've got the barricades out there. I know, again, it's a frustration. Everybody sees the barricades out there, but this work is going to be done. It's going to be, again, a fantastic project, doing a lot of resurfacing, a lot of curb work, and a lot of pavement work this year. All of it will be, it's in the process now. It'll be done by Thanksgiving. Porter Plaza, that's the stormwater project that we see just down the road. That will be done by October 31st. Making good headway there. Everything's on schedule, so that'll be done by October 31st. Well 14, which I know maybe some of you are not keeping as good at tabs on. It's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, and you don't really see a whole lot of action out there. A lot of stuff's going on inside. Summer of 18, that's when the project's supposed to be done. That's when the project will be done. I'd say May, June of next year. But that project is still going well, on track, on schedule, on budget. And then Commerce Street, the last one that I have, surface, will be the week of the 9th. And I know that one kind of keeps slipping and sliding here. We're working with everybody down there, and that will be surface next week. And that project will be off the books. So a lot of work. I know everybody, I appreciate everybody's patience. We're starting to receive some phone calls, and I encourage people to call. I understand there's frustrations out there, and I appreciate everybody's patience. And we're doing the best we can, and everybody's doing a good job for us this year.
All right, Brent, thanks. Very good. All right, anything else?
I just have one thing, going all the way back to the beginning of the meeting, when about the meeting, the kickoff meeting had with IDOT and all the other.
Yeah.
I don't know how feasible it is, and I don't know how usual it is. But I don't know how feasible it is, how usual it is. But I would like to have every council meeting an update during the construction of State Street to go ahead and find out what's going on, especially if and when the construction company decides to take a few days off and they're gone, like they have a history of doing. So I'd like to know why, because we're the ones going to go ahead and catch all the grief from the people in town, and I just want an explanation is if they're gone, I want to know why.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I've never attended a kickoff meeting for an engineering project before, but I attended this one because, and I did ask for the president of deconstruction to be there because I had my concerns, exactly what you're saying. So that's why I was there, to be very clear about what we need and what we expect from them. And they said all the right things, you know, they want to do their 10-hour days and 6 days a week if necessary, whatever it takes. So, but I would agree, if something comes up and they're not there, we would all like to know why. And one of the things I did ask too was that we make sure that we arm all the construction crews with Brent's business cards, because when people come out and they're like, you know, hollering at a construction crew guy, they don't know all the answers, and they're probably hot and tired, and it just goes bad. So all they need to do is hand that person Brent's card, and so they know who to call, talk to the right person, so we can get right answers. So if it's like, where the heck is everybody? I see one guy out here pushing a broom. Where's the rest of the crew? Those answers can be forthcoming. Yes, taking it very seriously, and we want to make sure that we all know what's happening at any one time. So
they did agree to not only bi-weekly updates for the construction period, but also we're going to start with weekly update meetings for the first few months or 6 months, just because there's so much going on. So we will certainly be able to provide you updates on a council meeting update. So we'll have a special report.
And I also like that IDOT has rented an office here to keep an eye on things too. So they'll be right here on site. That's good too. So.
Brent, okay. I appreciate the updates that you've been giving us, so that helps us understand.
Good.
The only other thing I wanted to, for the good of the order, if it's all right, Mayor, is Darren and I were hinting earlier about the revenues on a hotel tax. I was alluding to a letter we finally received from the United States Department of Commerce for the Census Bureau that we did have our census was completed. We finally got our certification letters back. We are over 25,000 people now. That certification is automatic when they send the letters to Springfield, and so we are now over 25,000 people, 25,383 people, so that will bring in about $80,000 a year more with MFT funds, so it's been a great way to get more resources from the state of Illinois, and then gives us home rule authority for things like hotel motel tax. And then while I'm on that, we were doing, appreciate Lisa and Sonny emailing each other, that provision that I talked about for the motel not being taxed was actually in our ordinance for the tax, not for the annexation agreement. So that piece of business can be on consent if you wish for the motel approval, but.
And we could revisit whether
matter.
the ordinance
Yeah.
should be amended.
Right.
Yeah, I just leave it as it is, it's fine.
Do we need to change anything, right? Like we had a non-home rule sales tax previously, right? Now we're home rule. I assume does that just automatically roll over and we
It's still
continue
the
as is,
same.
or is there anything we need to do like procedurally?
No, it automatically happens.
That was my question. Do we get a certificate? Do we just, I thought we had to like
put it on
vote
the
on
wall.
it.
We
I don't know.
we got a letter, yeah.
It actually says you are
It
now
actually says-
home.
It doesn't say that, it just says we
That
refer to your
portion.
population, yeah.
Population
Ben
was the
made
easy one.
t-shirts.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
home rule,
Yeah.
baby.
It's automatic.
We did confirm that that letter was being sent to the state, which then controls our population figures for our revenue that's per capita. So that's going to go out to them, and hopefully we'll start to see those revenues increase because the population is up.
Brent, you gotta change some of those entranceway signs on our population.
Yeah, get that white marker, yeah.
You put that in the
Happy to
2020
do it.
budget.
24, 859.
It's a B project.
That's the last one I saw.
B
there.
project.
All right.
Mayor, I got one more question.
Yes, yes.
Would you happen to have any update on the Dunkin' Donuts? I'm constantly getting bombarded with.
Yeah, I did. So I actually talked to Rich Rymek. He's the kind of developer just 2 days ago, actually. He said that everything went okay at the court proceedings. They had to get paperwork shuffled over to get Amish's wife in play, and it looks. He said that next week or the week after, at the latest, you should see things pick up again.
Okay.
So it should be back on track.
Thank you.
And I believe Burger King, you said we're just waiting on one contractor to be
Registered.
certified or something?
The permit's ready to be issued for the redo. Our staff talked to the project manager on Friday. We are still waiting for a couple contractors to be registered, and once they are, the permit can be issued.
Okay. All right, very good.
Did we ever get an answer from the bill we did not pay on September 20th, or we can't?
We are going to present that at the next meeting. We've pulled that bill from the bills list again tonight, and we'll do a little presentation and contracts for that,
Okay.
so.
All right, looking for a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Jim and Jason, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You guys need 5, or what do you want to do?
Break.
Yes.
2.5.
What?
Yeah, that's huge.
All right, everyone. All right, looking for a roll call so we can start our city council meeting.
Present.
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 Here.
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 All right, very good. Looking for a motion to have a consent agenda tonight.
Yes.
I'll
Okay,
Second.
seconded by, well, we'll do Christina, just to get her on there. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so tonight's consent agenda would be the September 6th regular city council meeting minutes, the committee of the whole meeting minutes are the same day, September 20th regular council meeting minutes, and September 20th committee of the whole meeting minutes. We're also looking for approval of a payroll ending September 24th, our various bills. Building number 3, the Heritage Crossings Corporate Center, letter of credit reduction, and the 2017 resurfacing project, 17085. Before we move forward, did you say you were pulling something out of that bill list?
It's not on there.
It's not in there.
Oh, okay, all right,
We
good.
were anticipating it to be, but we're going to do a presentation on it on the 18th.
Okay, got it. All right, so that said, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Jason? Seconded by Renee. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 Okay. I did have a request to move up,
Yes, CED 1 and 2, if we can, Mayor.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. The first item is a reimbursement for our fire sprinkler and fire alarm system installation assistance program. This request for assistance through the program was approved by the City Council on August 2nd for Janine and Neil Wheeler to assist them with installing their building that is located at 131 to 133 East 9th Street and 901 South Hamilton Street. They have installed a fire alarm system into the existing building. The amount of the contract with D&I Electronics was $12,570, 50% of that being $6,285. Given the cost of the project, the applicant was approved for the maximum reimbursement of $5,000. The work has been completed, the testing has been witnessed by the fire district, and proof of payment has been submitted and included in your packets. Since there have been no other requests or approvals for assistance in this program, the applicant is now seeking reimbursement. And as per the program, once these funds are released to the applicant, the appropriate lien paperwork will be completed and filed and recorded on the property. Staff is recommending approval of this reimbursement in the amount of $5,000 and seeks direction from the council to motion to authorize the reimbursement. Mr. Wheeler is present with any questions or congratulations for taking advantage of the program.
I'll make
All
a
right.
motion to approve.
All right, JR's motion,
Second.
seconded by Darren. Any thoughts, concerns, questions?
That's great.
Other than job well done? All right, looks good. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 All right, and CED 2?
Yes, the next one is now for the same property at 131 to 133 East 9th and 901 South Hamilton. This is for participation in the Facade and Site Improvement Grant Program. They are requesting reimbursement as the building improvements previously authorized under the program on August 2nd have been completed. The amount that they were allocated was $10,000, and it included masonry work such as tuck pointing and repainting the building with a similar color, installation of 8 awnings. They did receive a certificate of appropriateness from the H&A Commission. The proof of payment for each of the different contracts has been provided. The total cost of all work is $34,872.25. 50% of that being $17,436.13. They still remain eligible for the maximum reimbursement. We also included pictures, the before and afters, to just see how great the building looks now. And we are Once again, similar to the fire program, once the funds are released, the lien will be executed and recorded. Therefore, our recommendation is reimbursement of the $10,000 grant, and we ask the council to authorize reimbursement as performed under the program.
All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to reimburse.
JR, seconded by Renee. Any last questions? You have a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 All right, thank you much.
And then
Hey, can we move up Mike, too, so he's not sitting here?
Yeah, sure, we'd be glad to do that. So that would be CA2. We've got the waste management contract extension, seeking a motion to approve a 7-year extension with the waste management for waste and recycling services.
So moved.
All right, look, second, discussion?
I can lead this off if that's okay, Mayor. We've had a presentation at the previous meetings. We've tried to renegotiate at Jason's request for a better escalator, the best escalator we could do without impacting other savings that we've already presented was the 2.5 for a 7-year. We could also do the 2.75 with 5 years. Again, our current rate was $21.62, would be locked in for 14 months, providing about $96,000 in savings and foregoing a 3.5% increase that would be starting in November this year. I think we covered quite a few things at the last meeting. We're getting 30 additional branded cards, additional items on the contract in regards to handling special events, and the yard waste cards have been removed and left out, as if people want to order those, they can pay for those. And same thing with the recycling is not part of this contract any further. So welcome any comments or questions.
All right. Yeah, so I
You
guess
want me to go or you want to go?
Oh, go ahead.
So I just have a question, and maybe I need some clarification. On the quotes with the comparisons that you gave us, I looked at ELSIP with Allied Republic, the 5-year contract starting at $18.45 for monthly. When I take that out at a 3% increase, their year 6 years out, is lower than what we start at in year 1 for our renewal. So just want to point that out. I like the idea of a competitive bid, and so just looking at that. Now, I can't really compare some of the other ones we have because many of them are just waste management, so why would I compare that? And then some of the other ones, I mean, so I don't think there's really a lot of examples here other than ones that are showing me a slightly lower starting price. So I would like to look at a competitive bid. And then also the 10-year treasury yields at 2.33. So I still think there's a little room for wiggle room with the increases.
All right. Jason, did you have something?
Yeah, I did a little bit more research based on the conversation we had, and I actually indicated to Ben that, you know, I feel to some extent like a broken record saying we need to start going out for quotes, and we always find a reason why we don't. I indicated to Ben that if they came down 0.5% from what was proposed last time, it probably was just worth, you know, signing a new contract with Waste Management. I don't know if they're unwilling to or if it's negotiation. They came down 0.25%, not 0.5%. So I did a little bit of homework. And as Mike indicated last time, there is actually a Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out a garbage rate inflation. And over the past 4 years, the garbage and trash collection in U.S. urban areas is up a total of 6.2%. Over 4 years at a 3.5% increase, that compounds to 14.8%. So in the last 4 years, they've got an 8% incremental price over the index that Mike referenced. You know, I think this is one of those things that I always say we should go out for bid if I don't feel like we're getting a great deal. I feel like we're getting an okay deal, and just like before, right? It's opinion whether it's worth the time to go out or not. I was hoping that Waste Management would have come in with a little bit more of an aggressive bid. And one thing I kind of bounced off Ben, he said they didn't really have a conversation. Mike, you mentioned the index last time. Would you be willing to do you know, even the index plus 0.25% or something to give you guys a little bit of wiggle room going forward, allowing you to capture, you know, in theory, capture your cost increases, but not, you know, further burden the residents beyond that.
In terms of indexing, I think that it's something that, you know, I said is out there. We didn't really run that through, you know, our pro forma analysis for this particular proposal. If we were to do something like that, you know, I'd have to go back and see, okay, so what does this do, you know, to the price? What does this do to the services? You know, with fixed cost escalators, we're giving everyone certainty in uncertain times. So, you know, there might be, you know, again, it's something we can talk about and go back and ask. But if we do some sort of an index, there'd probably have to be also some sort of a floor and a ceiling just to protect both of us in terms of, you know, if there's zero increase or, you know, cost of living goes up, you know, 5 or 6%. So that percent. But what we did with this particular proposal is respond to the council's request for lower escalators. We've done that. We're proposing 0% increase next month. City will effectively have the same rate for 26 months because what we're proposing is a 14-month rate. So, and then, you know, reduced escalators. We're also prepared to offer more services to the city. The yardway season will be longer this year, so instead of it ending December 1st, which it would typically do, it will end this Friday, December 8th this year. So we will, you know, the residents will see that impact this year.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think, you know, having, you know, listened to this negotiation go on for quite some time now, I think that when I find that two parties are kind of annoyed with each other, that usually means we found the magic number. I think, Jason, you asked to take a look at these other variables last time, and you know, you were looking for a half, you got a quarter. I commend you for that. Quite frankly, I think it's a good deal. We're avoiding a 3.5% increase that would kick in November, and if we're going to keep trying to find another 0.25% but pay 3.5% for a year, I just feel like it's a fine deal, and I think the service that Waste Management does is very good. Never had a problem with it. I mean, it's my feeling to approve, and I appreciate the hard work that you've done to get another 0.25% out, Jason. Good job. That's why we rely on you. In any case, anybody else have any thoughts?
I would like to say that difference in price just on the Allied Republic quote is $2 million in 5 years. So I just want to point that out there. When you do how they start at their 1845, we won't know what price we're going to get until you go out to bid. And so, and you don't know all the services that they're going to get because none of your little chart showed us what extras we got or what we didn't.
Well, I think the converse argument is also true. We don't know exactly what they're paying for 1845 either, that you're using a lower number and you're not exactly familiar with their contract. I've met with Allied Republic. I've met with Environmental. They told me personally, their sales reps, that they couldn't compete with recarding an entire town. Unless you want to go to a sticker program, I think you should renew the current program.
But if we went to bid, would we not get similar prices? All we're going to be missing then is a increase of 1 year.
Well, and we made these arguments when we talked about this exercise that we were going through, and that we've seen other communities go through bids and then they ultimately end up renegotiating with the current vendor, just like Joliet did. We've tried to get ahead of that and negotiate the best deal we could. We feel this is a fair price. I feel this is a fair price. I feel it's a good deal. It's a 2.5% escalator on a 7-year contract. You know, it's better than we had before, and we're getting immediate savings. I'm not sure what else we can expect, but that's just my opinion.
All right. Anybody else? Well, then why don't we just go ahead and do a vote?
Real quick, what is this vote, the actual vote for, the 5-year or the 7?
7-year was recommended for the 2.5% escalator.
Can I ask who seconded? Who seconded?
Jason did.
I think I did.
Jason did. No.
I made the motion.
Yeah, kind of went fast, I agree.
Salem. Yes.
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 Vandermeer.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
Beretta.
No.
It's like one of those Tom Kelly no's. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. We'll work with staff on communicating that extension to the yardway season then, and we look forward to working with staff on finalization.
Can I ask a non-contract question? And you might not be the right person to ask, but I bounced this off Ben, and I don't know that we got a full
Email
answer.
today, yeah.
I believe that you can request larger cans, up to the 96 gallon, 95, 96 gallon, and that switch out if you have a smaller can is free of charge, right? I'm hearing that some people are being warned, like, well, if you damage your old can, you'll probably get charged $30, but there's no, I guess, what's the guidelines for that, for people who have smaller cans and want larger?
If what we've been trying to do, and the agreement that we're working on, it's going to clean up that housekeeping issue that you're talking about. We are, if somebody's 64-gallon cart is damaged, okay, I mean, and most of the carts are in very good shape, but some of them, you know, they're reaching the end of their life. So what city staff does when they get a call from a resident is ask them if they'd like to, if we need to exchange that 64-gallon cart, could we bring a 96-gallon out instead? Now, some people are very happy with that 64-gallon cart, and we just leave well enough alone. But if they want to upgrade that cart to a 96, then instead of bringing a 64, we'll bring the 96 out. If the issue is the can is just, you know, there's odors in the can, and it's just more of a convenience thing, I want to swap, then they may get charged, you know, a swap fee for making that change. We're not anticipating doing a complete cart exchange or rollout here. Most people are happy with the carts they have, but it depends on what the circumstances are when carts get exchanged.
What if the circumstance is purely just to get the larger cart? There's nothing wrong with the existing cart, but they say, hey, you know, I had a 65-gallon garbage can and a, whatever it was, 35-gallon recycling, right? I want 96 for both.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with these, but it's just a preference. Is there a charge?
Currently, there's a swap fee for just making that. If we're taking two good carts and giving you two good carts, then there's a swap fee.
It's about $25.
So, yeah, so what is the fee then?
I believe I think it's $25.
25.
So how do you start off with the bigger can? Like, does it restart?
Move in now, you get.
Yeah, all the new.
That's a good example. If there's new construction, you could potentially get the 96-gallon cart pairing. But if you move into a townhouse, then you're going to probably want the 64-35 pairing because you can't keep those larger carts outside your domicile. So we've got a hodgepodge of carts that are out there, and it's just tailored to what the circumstances were where somebody lives. When we originally rolled out the cart program in 2004, the standard program was a 64-gallon refuse cart and a 35-gallon recycle cart. Then 6 years ago, we offered an amnesty for people to upgrade the 35 to a 64. And the idea was the standard pairing then would be 64-64. But larger homes, bigger families, now there's this prevalence for 96s, and that's what we're trying to kind of ease that into the contract to make it a little easier for folks to upgrade.
Unless we do some sort of swap, right? I mean, we'll add some homes here and there, but it's going to be, you know, our new home build out is not that extensive, right? So most of the city will still have 64-35 unless we start allowing some sort of swap for the 96.
Right, and until they wear out, you know, until they kind of reach the end of their life, which.
They have a choice. They can swap out now if they want. Anybody wants.
But then you just pay the $30 or whatever.
$25.
How bad do you want a bigger cart?
Okay. Anything else? For Mike?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.
Yes,
CA1?
thank you. Where are we? Yes, my apologies. So we're back to CA1 is the Lockport median sign on 159th Street. We're seeking a motion to authorize the city administrator to approve a contract for a faux median sign to be installed on 159th as the entryway into Lockport with the low bidder Parvin Kloss Sign Company for $21,908.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Second.
Seconded by Christina. All right.
If I can elaborate here, so there was a few questions, and I understood that in my packet, we had some examples of stone and faux, and so we got a little confused in sizes. I was able to clarify, and the good news was that the faux sign that was originally quoted at about $25,000 or $26,000 was based on the larger size sign, and so we've been able to reduce our costs by almost $5,000. We are staying within what IDOT allows for a median location monument sign. If you look in your packet on, I believe it's page 79 of 166 of the City Council packet tonight in your iPad, you will see the first page of our previously approved master plan for gateway signs that Alderman Petrakos reminded me of. And there was a little debate in regards to, do we put the city of Lockport on it? Do we put historic Lockport as a welcoming sign? And as you can see, this current location was recommended as a city of Lockport sign, and so that's the way we'd like it to look. And yes, the letters would be at 5.5 inches. We've deliberated about that a few times and looked at other communities and signs that have 5 inches, 8 inches, and I've been assured by traffic engineers that a 5.5-inch letter is readable between 55 and 225 feet in their maximum window. So we're seeking approval if the council wants to have a monument sign. If we want a larger type sign, we could certainly do that. We probably should revisit our master plan on these entry monuments and find a new location, but if we're to have a monument sign in the IDOT median of the right-of-way, it can't be any larger and the text letters can't be any bigger.
Okay. All right, anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, so everyone knows on page 79.
Yeah.
Right, so we can pass the torch, everyone kind of sees what Joanne and I worked on, and Ben was there at our meetings too. That's the master plan, what we're calling the master plan, right? Things may change or whatever, but those are the spots we identified, future growth. As we have more budget items, we can create more signs. There's a difference between the smaller signs, some of the medians, between where, like I said at the last board meeting, right? What's historic Lockport and which signs say City of Lockport. This is an IDOT right-of-way one. It totally throws a curve at everything here. So it's going to be a smaller one. That was a good catch. I didn't even notice that. So it's not going to be stone. So it's going to be foam. And it's going to be smaller. That's there. But it's the same content, the same design, same concept, I should say. Same design and everything that's going there. When we move on to the other ones, if IDOT has jurisdiction and gives us the same brief, we may have to go with the same foam, smaller sign. Other ones, like I see on Cedar and Division, we could probably put a full one. And if the council decides to do stone, we can do stone. If the foam one on 159th really looks sharp, then let's just do foam, and it's inexpensive. It's less expensive, so we can do that one. But we're going to see this one here and how it pops up and everything. And then I think with the median, the trees, and all the landscaping, I think that would be a great gateway for our town there. And I know Ben's been working on getting quotes for the landscaping, the electric, and even sprinklers. Because that is such an important gateway for us right off the highway, I would recommend all those, right? Make sure we're watering, we've got water, we got lights there. We can decorate for the holidays or anything like that, put some lights up, and we can do our thing and go from there.
All right. Just good job, Joanne and Jim, working hard on that. Thank you. All right, well, why don't we do a roll call?
Saban. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
All right, what do we got next then? PW1.
One. Right.
Yes.
Bridge inspections?
Yeah.
You got that, Brent?
Yep. All right, Brent, lay it on us.
Bridge inspections, this is discussed at the September 20th, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting. We did not have, at that time, we did not have a contract yet. We were still working through some details. Very happy with the numbers that came back, $16,200. This will cover us from 2018 through 2020. So it will take us for a total of 4 years worth of inspections. Our previous contract was just over $7,000 for 1 year. So just to give you a little bit of an idea on kind of where this, I was very happy, very pleased. So I would request council's consideration. Again, this is a contract that this is all of their standard terms and conditions. This is not something that we're going to sign. This is something that we are working through. But again, the dollar amount, $16,200, that would be the request this evening, and take any questions.
All right, so looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
JR, seconded by Joanne. Any questions, concerns?
This, would you do it with the dam and weir or anything? Was that included, or?
I'm sorry.
What we talked about, this is the same project we talked about last time, right, with adding the dam and weir in there in the inspections, or is that separate?
That is not part of this. It is, yeah, it's a completely separate component when that time comes.
Okay.
All right, could do a roll call?
Saban.
Yes.
Petracos.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Vandermeer.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Artisan.
Yes.
Coretta.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
And then you get Pam?
I started. Yes. So if you may recall at the last Committee of the Whole meeting, GG Tempo was required per their annexation agreement to prepare a plat of consolidation so that when they do construction, it's all on one lot instead of the multiple lots. And then as part of the discussion that occurred with the Plan Commission and the concern with proximity of a future sidewalk or bike path and where their proposed detention area, that they dedicate additional right-of-way. That's the item that's before you this evening, but later this afternoon, we found out there's a little bit of a snafu with how the document was prepared, so I will allow Sunny to speak on that.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, there should be a revised ordinance, hard copy, and it was also mailed out to you. According to the Records of Deeds Office, we do need 2 separate plats, which staff did originally tell the developers to do that, but there will be a plat of dedication that will be separated, that will be Exhibit B, that the applicant will be submitting and that we will record. So nothing of substance has changed, nothing that, the City Council can't take a final vote tonight on.
Okay. Well, let's do a motion to approve, and then we can talk about it if we need to. Looking for a motion to approve. No, is there Renee? Yes. Anybody else? Second. Jason?
And for the record, that will be for the revised version of
Yes.
the ordinance, yes.
Okay, so this is for the revised one that's in front of us. Any thoughts, questions, concerns about it? All good? All right, we'll do a roll call, please.
Saban.
Yes.
Petracos.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Vandermeer.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Artisan.
Yes.
Coretta.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, very good. Anything else before we close?
I just want to make one comment. Thank you, Calvin Grove, for inviting me to this walk and bike to school thing. But it was today, and I just got it today. So, if you would please give a little bit earlier notice, I would appreciate it. But it sounds like a wonderful idea. I hope it went well. But thank you, Calvin Grove, for the invite.
Well, we're jealous because we didn't get one, okay? No.
Yeah, you'll get next
I
board
did the
meeting.
Calvin Grove 5K the other day, and I didn't see anybody there.
All right, friends, looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Jim and Joanne. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.